Good. We expected for
Interview Friday.
Work on Friday.
I know,
Till
the bench is still coming.
Interview.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to.
Big thing, or is it every day?
Oh, tomorrow is tomorrow's Thursday. Correct. So I have to, right, I have to get bust out of work tomorrow by 2.
All right, we got everybody here, all counselors, okay, staff. And I see we have a few people in the gallery. Nice to see you at a council meeting. We're going to reconvene the regular council meeting at 5:13 on September 28th. And right off the bat, we have 2022 District of Sycamoose Development Corporation, the annual general meeting. And we're going to call that to order as well. So what's happening with this? Okay, so I'm going to call the 2022 annual general meeting of the District of Sycamoose Development Corporation to order. And a business summary. Tourism and Economic Development Coordinator, Carly Precision, and we'll get a financial update from Kelly. So Carly, you have the floor.
I'm here to just give you guys an update from my last one that I presented back in June. This is a snapshot of some of the stuff that we have done in that time, as well as a couple of upcoming initiatives, and then I'll be preparing a full report for my year-end recap that will cover everything tourism and economic development, as well as project what's happening in 2023. So when we talk about the tourism side, I've created a list of the things that we said we were going to do and what we've achieved. We've done a lot in terms of advertising and marketing. Some significant spends on that regard, and we've seen some really good turnover and growth within our social media and our website traffic. Probably the most notable projects that we've done for tourism this summer has been our visitor experience guide, which we were out of within 1 week of our first print and had to do a much larger reprint. So we are now officially down to, I think, 25 guides left in town from a 2,250 print run. So really successful, had great feedback from all of our accommodators, and we're actually going to do a refresh and reprint the guide beginning of May next year. So again, really positive. It's the first big, beautiful guide. If you haven't seen it, there are some copies left in the visitor center. It's a 60-page guide that tells the story of Sycamoose and goes through the history as well as everything that we were doing in terms of activities, events. And we did a ton of content projects on our major events around town to build up our content gallery and submit a lot of the photos and videos to Destination BC to be used on a national scale. We did some event sponsorship with Music in the Park, Monash Music Fest, Fungi Fest, and the Shuswap Ultra. Upcoming for tourism still this year, we have our MRDT 2023 report. We had our Tourism Advisory Committee planning session, and now the process of putting that report and budget together to be submitted at the end of November happens. We've just finalized an event coming to Sycamoose called Reconnection in the Shuswap. It's a CODA grant funded event that we're collaborating with Hoya Lodge, Salmon Arm Economic Development, and Sycamoose to bring a virtual reality event to the Red Barn Arts Center that showcases the journey of the salmon run. So it'll close, this series of events will close out the actual salmon run. So it's in support with the Adams River Salmon Society. So we are just putting out our save the dates next week. I will have more information for everybody shortly, as it was yesterday at 5 where we finally got the 2 thumbs up. Okay, that's going to happen October 27th to 29th. We have a sled film festival that's we're partnering with Sled Sycamoose on October 29th at Owl's Head. The fishing derby, we are supporting again on November 5th. And then we're building out a 2023 event attraction campaign, which I'm working with ECBC to potentially get some grant funding towards that. On the ECDET side, we had some great initiatives and programming that happened over the summer. We did an open house in July and had some turnout. I think counselors that did show up and the board members that were there to answer questions. Our strategic plan was finally completed. It is in print production right now, so I'll have actual print copies, but I believe all of you have the link to the actual plan. The workforce roundtable is an ongoing concern in our area, and we're continuing to work with all of the local stakeholders that's being led, by Work BC and Community Future Shuswap. The rural northern immigration pilot is coming, and we have our hands up and ready to go to bring in the awareness of that program into town. We've already got some of our employers in town reaching out to get more information on that program. And then our business resource guidance support sessions are ongoing. Upcoming still, we have our DOSBC board meet and greet, which will happen towards the end of the year. The ECBC grant application. We have our tourism advisory committee terms end in November. So we'll be putting out an ad for an expression of interest to continue to add the missing seats on that board. We have stakeholder engagement and triage plans based on the strategic plan findings and results, and then website updates. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Carly? Questions, you must be doing a great job. Glad that we're applying to ECBC and pretty sure you're going to be successful. Okay.
Thank you.
Kelly, you want to give us an update when it comes to the financial statements?
Yes, most definitely. So I'll keep this brief. These financial statements are for the December 31, 2021 year. So they're a little old since we're already September of 2022. These have been presented to council previously, but at the AGM, I will, because part of the resolution is to approve these financial statements. So at balance sheet is a snapshot of our assets and liabilities at a certain date. So this was at December 31, 2021. We had $100,000 in our bank account, and that's because we had received a lot of money. And as you can see here, it's in deferred revenue. And this deferred revenue is a combination of grants that we received, but we hadn't yet spent, as well as MRDT money. I believe there's $52,000 of MRDT money that we received, but yet we hadn't yet expended them yet. So they will be recognized next year. The accounts receivable of $10,000 is MRDT money receivable. Nothing else too exciting here with the balance sheet. At the end of the year, we had a little retained earnings. And then we go to the income statement. So the income statement's a bit different. It is for the year. So it summarizes the revenues and expenses. This contract services is economic development money from the District of Sicamous via the contract. We received several grants throughout the year. So this is actually the grant money that we spent. And within the projects here, this 50,000, the majority of that relates to grant money we received. So 30,000 of the MRDT money we actually spent. So that's what's here in the income statement. But if you take the balance sheet amount and the income statement amount for the year, in 2021, we earned $83,000 in MRDT revenue. So that's an increase from 21,000 the year before. And year to date, so far for 2022, we've got an overall increase of about 46% from 2021. So this MRDT money is growing. I'm anticipating it to be about 120,000 in 2022. So that's good news. It goes right back into the community. And then the District of Sicamous has agreed to match tourism money up to $35,500 a year. The expenses, the majority is wages, which pays for Carly's wage, some smaller expenses, and there's some office costs here. I believe those are office costs. We had rent, and then we did some upgrades to the Development Corporation building. And then the project costs are mainly website and stuff relating to the various grants that received. So at the end of the year, we had net income of $12,400. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So retained earnings at the end of the year, 20,000.
$20,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. With the MRDT, is that currently at 2% that we're collecting?
Yeah.
Are we considering adding that an extra 1% because legislation allows us to do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in order to increase it from 2% to 1%, you have to redo the whole plan and get all the hoteliers to agree to it, like we did originally with the 2%. So I believe the plan is once our 5-year plan is complete, which is, I'm not sure what year will.
It's end of August 2025. So at that point, then we can go and as Kelly was saying, we can solve all of the accommodators. They'll have to buy into moving it up to 3%, and then a much more robust plan is developed to take that 1% that would apply for the housing strategy.
That's, yeah,
Go ahead.
that's my reason asking if we could allocate that 1% to a specific housing project to meet the guidelines of the MRDT. 1%, because we're partnering with two different non-for-profits, Eagle Valley Senior Citizens Housing and Habitat for Humanity. Board, we'll probably incur some costs for servicing to the lot lines and stuff like that could possibly take advantage of that 1%.
As we get closer, what I can do is print out the guidelines. MRDT is very specific on what can and cannot be eligible expenses within that 1% expenditure. I would also consult with Sound Arm. They just renewed and chose not to go. I believe their accommodators chose not to bump up at 3%. So I would like to book a time with Lana, who's their executive director, SAIDS, to find out the reasons so that we can better prepare ourselves and have those conversations as our renewal.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting we do that. It was just a question that maybe, consider.
Of course, yeah, I think that the conversation should happen, and if there's appetite for it, definitely go for it.
Go ahead, Gordon.
Yes, through the chair. And another thing, Carly, we talked about at one time is the volunteer contributors. We have some people in the community that wanted to contribute voluntarily, whether it be Hyde Mountain or some houseboat operators. So that's another way we could increase our revenue as well.
Revelstoke just applied for another 1%. One of the reasons, and they've got buy-in from just about all of the hoteliers, and because the program has been so successful when it comes to marketing their community, so they're getting support for the extra 1%. It was brought to the CSRD meeting. Well, see if the neighboring community, like in the CSRD, we're going to support that, and they've got 100% support. So that's positive. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah, you're up.
And so my understanding is that a Revelstoke, their MRDT tax, because they're designated a resort community, is matched by the province. So when they get that 1% increase, if that pasture is too. So, because that's an additional thing directed at housing, which, you know what, you're asking people to come as tourists here and pay more money to be a tourist so that you can provide housing. Like there's my personal thing is that math doesn't add up. Like there's enough tax being paid everywhere else that you're better off to go the resort community designation and get the match up that community, which we talked about a couple of years ago doing. Just the ball never moved that way.
Yeah, and further to that, to be an actual designated resort municipality, they've stopped taking applications for that. So right now you can't even apply to be a resort municipality, but first and foremost, you have to be registered for MRDT to even be considered for that. So when that opens up, if that opens up, then we'll definitely be looking at that.
It might be a while before that happens because pretty much a moratorium on that at this stage.
Yes.
All right, any other comments or questions, Councillor McKay?
Yeah, the only reason I asked was because, to consider that, and that 1% could go towards housing. And I did read the guidelines yesterday, but don't remember them all, but it could be, it could help or assist tourism by providing seasonal accommodation, for one example, that, because the local businesses are having trouble getting staff because staff don't have a place to live. It's a catch-22 circle. So I think there's a potential business case to be made that would support tourism. Other hands up.
A really good angle to go.
Consultation. All right, thanks, Carly. But before you sit down, Okay, there is a public question period based on the fact that this is a DOSDC annual general meeting. So is there anybody with hands up at this stage that would like to ask a question to Carly? Okay, we're not seeing any hands. Nobody has a question of the DOSDC. All right, then we're going to carry on. So there is a consent resolution. It's fairly. It has all counselors. Do you see the resolution in front of you? It should be. And there it is up there on the screen as well. I can read it out. Maybe what I should do is I should read it out just for the benefit of everybody here and we'll go from there. All right, the undersigned being the sole shareholder of the company entitled is to vote at an annual general meeting of the company hereby consents to the following resolutions resolved as resolutions of the sole shareholder of the company entitles to vote at an annual general meeting that the financial statements of the company for the period ending December 31st, 2021 are hereby approved. All lawful acts, contracts, proceedings, appointments, and payments of money by the directors of the company since the last annual reference date of the company and which has previously been disclosed to the shareholders are hereby adopted, ratified, and confirmed. The number of directors of the company is hereby composed of a maximum of 7 directors. The following persons, each whom has consented as to act as a director, are hereby elected as directors of the company to hold office for a 1-year term until the 2023 annual general meeting of the company or unanimous resolutions consented in lieu of holding an annual general meeting or until their successors are appointed. So we have Wally Ferris, Dave Hamilton, and Alan Wagler. The following persons, each of whom has consented to act as a director, are hereby elected as directors of the company to hold office for a 2-year term until the 2024 annual general meeting of the company or unanimous resolution consented in lieu of holding an annual general meeting or until their successors are appointed. That is Colleen Dales, Jeremy Fair, Mike Helflick, and Todd Kylo. BDO certified public accountants in Salmon in British Columbia are hereby appointed auditors for the company until the next annual reference date of the company or until a successor is appointed at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors, and September 28, 2022 is selected as the annual reference date for the company for its current annual reference period. These resolutions shall be deemed to be effective as of September 28, 2022. So that's the consent to resolution. So I'll need a mover on this and a seconder, and then we'll have to vote on it to adopt it. Councillor McCabe moves it. I need a seconder. Councillor Bushel. Any other comments or concerns regarding this annual GL? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Carly. Okay. So the 2022 annual general meeting is adjourned. Recommendation that the 2022 annual general meeting of the District of Sycamoose Development Corporation be adjourned. I need a mover on this. Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Evans, all in favor. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. All right. Now, moving on, resolve in the committee of the whole recommendation that council resolve itself into the committee of the whole at 5:30. I need a mover on this. Councillor Aries, seconded by Councillor Bushel, all in favor. Carried, thank you. All right. Got my pen. All right, moving on. Administrative updates, bylaw enforcement. Have we got John here? Okay, Scott, can you give us an update on this, please? Thank you. And planning and development. Carry on.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we had an update from June to August. I know you're used to monthly updates, but we decided to hold off so we could get see what happened over the course of the summer. As you can see, a lot of traffic tickets and then some wharf tickets and some of those other tickets. I think 61 files were opened and we have 50 files that have been closed. So they're ongoing with about 11 files. But yeah, it was a really busy summer, and then kind of right as soon as the last weekend in August, everything tailed off. So we did have our extra hours this year with Sierra as the file ambassador. So she helped John out during the day. Yeah, a lot of patrols focusing on parking and beaches, and yeah, I think it went pretty well this summer, and John will be scaling back his hours. Now he'll be on the winter hours, so the halftime, 22 hours a week or 25 hours a week. And yeah, we'll be scaling back from the summer, but yeah, overall, I think things went pretty well.
Okay. Any comments for Scott in regards to bylaw report? Okay, I'm hearing none, so let's move on to the next thing, building permit report. Scott?
Yeah, and the building permits, you can see August 2022, a little bit higher, almost $1 million more in total value. Or sorry, that's over the year. So up to this point this year, then we have $1 million extra in revenue through the building permits. Stayed pretty busy throughout the summer, and yeah, I think we're gonna keep being busy. As you're aware, we have the new building official who's going to Revelstoke 2 days a week. So I think we're going to be getting more value for our money, and these we should be able to cover our costs with the building permit revenues.
Okay. Comments or questions for Scott on this? All right, I'm hearing none. So let's move on. Current development applications, Scott?
And the current development applications, a list almost seems like it stays about the same size. We have some files that we've requested more information or on hold for different reasons. And then we're processing them pretty quickly. You can see the bottom three or the bottom four that considered today at the Planning and Development Committee meeting, and then they'll be considered today at the council meeting. And yeah, we're still getting a pretty steady stream of applications in, so we'll keep processing them.
All right. Any comments, Mr. Malmus?
None.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Scott. Any comments in regards to this at this stage of council? Okay, so the 2022 Union of BC Municipalities Convention staff report in regards to the convention. Kelly, we get your comments on the convention and maybe.
Yep, most definitely. This report is just for information. Most of council was with me at UBCM. It was the week of September 12th to 16th. 4 councillors joined myself and we went to Whistler. We had 9 scheduled meetings, 6 with various ministry staff, 2 with ministries and 1 with the premier. We had in addition to those, we had a lot of other ad hoc meetings that were very valuable, and there was lots of networking events to meet with other councillor members and other staff and other communities. So there was a lot of value there. I've listed the different meetings as well as the topics and the outcome. I'm not going to go through them in detail because I'm assuming it has been read, but one that was very successful, I would say, was the one about the regional community forest, because we've been working at this for quite a few years now, and they did say that there was hope that Sicamous, Enderby, and Sputcheen would be successful in a community forest, where other municipalities were just told, no, that's never going to happen. So there is some hope there. With that meeting, we were joined with Enderby Council as well as Splatcheen, Teresa and Sabrina. They also joined us in a few meetings, one with the Premier and one with another ministry about the Shuswap Healing Center, looking for support in terms of ongoing funding for operations. Some other ad hoc meetings we had was with the mayor of Parksville discussing housing and streamlining development services. We had a meeting with some rail trail participants discussing that project. And we met with, I met with some staffers at the provincial and federal level about some grant funding that is coming out, as well as some existing grants that we have and we're processing. And then there was also a council to council meeting with spots and discussing mutual interest. And here's a picture of us at UBCM with the Premier after our meeting. We had a great discussion there. So if you have any questions or comments, or if any of the other councillors who were there want to speak to anything, that would be fantastic.
I'm quite sure when it comes to councillors' reports, but any comments, please go ahead, Councillor McKee.
Yeah, we got a surprising little nugget from Agricultural Land Commission also.
Yep.
About a different avenue to try address access as an issue, some sort of transportation corridor access. It could be an easement or right away or so. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that people know, and there's a different avenue to take that we haven't tried yet, so we'll give that a shot. We have a large whack of land over there that we were successful in getting out of the agricultural land reserve, but it's landlocked. So another step possibly to maybe make that happen. That was interesting. And also the Premier seemed very receptive, the Shuswap Healing Center. They had a color glossy rendering from Douglas Cardinal, and yes, so why are you talking to my health minister? And said, well, because we want you to. And he said he will. He takes his calls.
Right, Colleen.
Sorry, I wasn't there. Did you discuss any other funding or grant funding for did he give us any hope for more funding for the healthcare center if it was required?
Yeah, we had two separate meetings, one with the minister and one with mental health, is it? Sorry. Yeah. To be honest, they weren't too receptive. They didn't, they're more reactive, like putting beds for people that already have issues to the point that they need a higher level of care.
Not triage.
Yeah, and we're upstream from that. Our Shuswap Healing Center is to prevent people from getting to that stage. So, yeah. So they referred us to the First Nations Health Authority and Interior Health.
And Ministry of Health.
Yeah, Interior Health and the Ministry of Health. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right, so I'm going to comment on all of these, but I'm going to wait until the mayor's report. So before we get into that, any other comments at this stage in regard to Kelly's report? Okay, I'm going to move on to the general local election update. Sarah, you want to comment on this as we're fastly approaching the local election?
Thank you through the chair. I had written that down. With the general local election fast approaching, I want to provide a quick update for council and the public. Campaign period officially began on September 17th. This election, there are 5 candidates running for mayor and 11 candidates running for councillor to serve on District of Sicamous Council for a term of 4 years. Electors will have the opportunity to mark their ballot for 1 mayor and up to 6 councillors. Advanced voting is taking place next Wednesday, October 5th, here in council chambers, and we have general voting day on Saturday, October 15th. Both voting opportunities will be held here in council chambers at Municipal Hall, and the polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The same day voter registration, qualified electors are required to provide 2 pieces of ID that prove both their identity and residency. This year, electors also have the ability to vote by mail. Resident and non-resident property electors are required to complete a mail ballot application. These can be picked up in person at Municipal Hall, or they can be downloaded from the elections webpage on sicamous.ca. The application must be submitted by October 7th. The website also includes candidate profiles to help voters learn more about the individuals who are running for local office. It is important to note that the district does not take part in hosting or organizing any candidate forums. However, the Sycamoose Chamber of Commerce will be hosting forums tomorrow and on Tuesday, October 4th at the Sycamoose Senior Center. If voters are looking for more information regarding the upcoming election, they are encouraged to visit the elections webpage on sycamoose.ca or contact the district office. Election staff are happy to hear any questions you may have. Thank you, and remember to be a voter this October. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Sarah in regards to the election? Straightforward. All right, looking forward to that event and all the events prior to it. So moving on, the DOS strategic priorities, does any of the counselors wish to speak on that? There may be concerns regarding the priorities and when it comes time for your counselor's report regarding what took place in Woodford. But at this particular stage, I'd like to open up the floor to counselors if they would like to talk about any of the strategic priorities. Counselor McCabe, go ahead.
Yes, our Shoe Shop Healing Center. I'd like to recognize Sabrina and Teresa in the galley and counselors for Splatson. Thank you for taking the time to come today and bless the property. And thank you for being our partners in this project.
All right, any other strategic priorities? All right, I'm not hearing anything, so we're going to go from there into the council's report. So Councillor Bushel, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah, it was, I guess it was a busy couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I guess. We were out at UBCM and we had a lot of good meetings out there. We went to a few of the forums that they produced, like small talk forum and things like that. We all attended the meetings together. We had Splatsing, Teresa and Sabrina with us on a lot of the meetings. We seemed to get a lot of good traction in most of the meetings. We also, Malcolm and I had the opportunity to meet Sabrina for a Splatsing dispatch or a council to council meeting. So we had some good conversation there. And I ended up with COVID on the way home. So I've been out of commission for the last week or more. And but I did have some virtual meetings while I was in UBCM. We had a curling club meeting and we also had a developers meeting with the Old Town Bay people, Kelly and I. So that went really well. Other than that, Jeff chaired planning and development committee meeting today was busy. So yeah, it's been a busy couple, 3 weeks.
Thanks, Gord. Councillor Anderson, you're next.
Hey, while you guys were out at UBCM, I was holding down the fort. I had a tax committee meeting, advisory committee meeting. Carly provided updates in the planning budget with the MRDT money. And year to date, as Kelly said, it's up 46%, which is really exciting, encouraging for our tourism industry. And geocaching is drawing big crowds into Sycamoose, which I didn't even know what geocaching was, but there is a huge following. So that's pretty exciting. Shoe Shop Watershed Council. I went to their board meeting on Wednesday. So, and Shoe Shop Watershed Council meetings are all about clean water. So they communicate with Interior Health on update alerts and programs for boating safety programs and awareness for phosphorus in the water, things like that, education and looking for more funding for zebra and quagga mussels. They're putting together a communication to send out to the government because it closed six of the checkpoints. So we're trying to get back to a dozen so that our boat checkpoint, our boats coming into our province are being checked. While I was at the meeting, I had a call from a boat that came into Sycamoose and was going to launch out at Old Town Bay. And they went through the golden boat check and they weren't there, they were closed. So they got sick moose and they didn't want to put their boat in the water, but they wanted to have an inspection. So I had to scramble to find someone to inspect their boat here in Sycamoose because it was closed. It took a while to get through. It took about 3 hours to find someone to actually talk to a live person to check the vessel, which is a little bit disheartening because I mean, that's our water. This is our water source that we need to be concerned about and worried about. So it's a huge issue, but I see coming up in council tonight, our resolution that we put together is going to FCM regarding some of the wording and regulations around invasive species. We met regarding our economic development board and submissions, and that's pretty exciting because those folks are paramount to the key to success of our community to drive dev. A little bit of a think tank to share ideas and bring them forward to council for the growth of our community.
Councillor Anderson, Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. Yeah, I attended an interagency meeting. That was fairly informative. This morning I attended the planning committee meeting that Councillor Malmus chaired. I went to Enderby and I attended the first face-to-face rail to trail meeting in 3 years since COVID. So it was the first non-Zoom meeting, a face-to-face meeting. They're sort of waiting for the elections to see where the dust settles. So not a lot of core issues were dealt with, but a lot of attaboys for $12.5 million that the Splatson received for funding for the rail trail. And I'd just like to thank Daryl for the improvements in the dog park, the fence in the one corner and a few upgrades to the front gate. Everyone's pretty happy about that when they go to the dog park. Small improvements, but very happy dog owners. And that's it.
All right, thanks. Councillor McCabe, Councillor Aries.
Been a while since the last councillor's report. Counted there was no council because of UBCM recently. Bungay Festival here in town, weekend before last. I'm sure a lot of people attended. Public Works did a great job of putting up some equipment for it, and you'll owe Deb Heap a lot of thank yous for her hard work to make that event work, as well as the Legion. There's a lot of cooperation that led to a well-attended and pretty smooth event. They sold out their walks way before the event, which was the first time, and it's really got a lot of potential to grow into something larger for our community. That's it.
Councillor Malmus.
Yeah, as said, we attended UBCM and we met with the Minister of Forest Lands, and it's been 6.5 years that we've had this coalition for a community forest, and for the whole time they've been doing some study to assess whether there's any trees up there or not, and they finally finished that. So they said there is fiber available. Now they told us that there are communities that are also applying for a community forest, and they just told them there is no fiber available. So now we're waiting patiently for allocation. The community forest could, if we get the allocation that we're asking for, the community forest could benefit the community to the tune of about $500 million a year of don't have to go beg for grant funding or whatever, and we could do something with it. Hopefully the people that have been chosen by council to be on the EDC make the right choices, because that's where that money's going to go to. So it's that was a good thing. When we met with the Premier John Horgan, we talked about the wellness center. And on the way out the door, we kind of mentioned the idea that interior health should be a little more forthright with coming to the table. And I mean, they have a process, but the government's asking that, communities do what we've done. And there's other communities that have put in a wellness center or doctor's offices, and they run it. And interior health is supposed to do some of the funding, but it's a onerous process to go through. And we just suggested that maybe they should review that and try to figure out how they can streamline that a little bit, because if you're putting in a facility that meets their requirements, then we're not 100% sure why you have to wait 2 years for interior health to come to the table. So all in all, there was some really good nuggets that come out of this meeting. Going there, you meet different people, you get to talk to different communities. We met with Parksville to talk about their housing strategy and how they do it. I mean, our planning department works pretty well, but there's always room for a little nugget here or there. So that's the benefit of going to these socially, I'll call it, because that's what it is. You're meeting different ministers, different deputy ministers, and basically coming out of there with hopefully something that benefits the community. So I think we did fairly well.
Thanks, Councillor Momus. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, it's the first time that because of the pandemic, we didn't get to go to the other two UBCMs. So I went in 2019. I was only there for 2 days because of my day job, but it was good to be there the whole time and meet with all the ministers and fight for Sycamoose and see what we could get for this wonderful town this district we have. And of note that popped to my mind was the meeting with the Minister of Transportation. My portfolio, one of them is to try and increase educational opportunity for kids in this town. And so the Minister of Transportation, we all were trying to say, if we could get one bus in the morning to go there, kids that want to go to school that don't have a vehicle, and then one bus home at night, then we could increase the chances for our youth to do education past grade 12. And then meeting Premier Horgan was a privilege, but also to see the chance to try and get funding that would continue. And it was great hanging out with Teresa and Sabrina and getting to know them. And I tell you, when you're meeting from morning to evening, you get a lot of steps in when you're walking from one place to another. And Teresa would rub it in that she beat me in steps every day. But I did make my 10,000 most days. But it was great to go and to learn lots, and meeting after meeting after meeting. My brain was mush, but I slept well. So it's good to be back. And then since then, I've been actually meeting with quite a few folks that have questions and they want to get together. And then also people that are going to run for council and they want to talk about what that's like. So it's been busy, like Gord said. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, just want to comment a little bit on the UBCM, but Sabrina and Teresa, thank you so much for joining us, and the impact that you have when it comes to some of those meetings is substantial, without question. Just for the benefit of the gallery, we met with municipal affairs in regards to the service establishment bylaws, some of the concerns we have when it comes to the CSRD. We also met with BC Transit in regards to regional transit services, emergency management BC when it comes to flood mitigation. Very concerning when some of the details around the flood mitigation. Ministry of Transportation staff, regarding zoning bylaws and the community transportation planning. We were looking forward to sorting out a highway corridor plan. Environmental staff, when it comes to the Owlhead bike project, which would be very supportive when it comes to tourism with the district of Sycamoose. We talked about the Eagle River campground, and that's when, the input that we had from Teresa and Sabrina was so substantial. Mental health and addiction issues, and this is why we're building the Shuswap Healing Center and the importance of it, when it comes to supporting people that have medical needs in the future. And the Ministry of Forest, that we talked about the regional community forest we've been working on this for almost 10 years. And the reason we've been working on it and why we want to get this into Sycamoose is so that we have alternative revenue streams so it can offset taxation when it comes to some of the different projects that we're trying to accomplish here in Sycamoose. And last, the premier. That was really an interesting conversation, how receptive he was to the healing center. And I'm not quite sure where they're going to get additional grant funding in order to support that, but he was really listening to us. And the fact that we were, this meeting was attended to by members of Spalats and a trifactor sort of relationship that we have with them was extremely positive. So very, very busy week when it came to UBCM and incredibly positive. And I want to thank Kelly as well for joining us and her input when it comes to some of these different things, especially when it comes to municipal affairs and some of the challenges that we have when it comes to the onerous side of the way that we vote at the regional district level. Not necessarily is it in our best favor when it comes to a corporate vote, when somebody from Golden is making decisions based on what's important to the district of Sycamoose, when it should be a stakeholder vote, when it should be Area E and district of Sycamoose making those decisions based on what's important in our community. So it was a very busy, but very, very positive week and totally essential to us attending those things because there's always been some sort of complication when it comes to the community thinking that, well, we're spending this money going to the Union of BC Municipalities or the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. This is where this group of people go to these meetings and chase the money. We chase the money, we chase it hard. That's how we built the bridge across the Eagle River. That was part of that process and other things that we've done here. So I just want you to be aware that these are very, very positive meetings and it's essential that we go to them. On the other hand, I would like to recognize the Sycamoose Eagles and we have a pretty darn good team this year and we've got a great coaching, really good coaching and get out to some of these games this year if you can and support those kids. And economic trust of the Southern Interior and the potential of us getting grant money. Carly talked about it today when it comes to assisting maybe economic development. And that whole program, there's $45 million sitting in a development and investment program of which they put back about $3 million into the communities to assist young entrepreneurs in order to get into business. And I think it's a great program and we need to continue to support that. Anyway, I think that's enough for me when it comes to this, but at the same time, I just can't say enough about the hard work that's gone forward when it comes to the community forest. And one of the things that they're really interested, it was a negative and now it's turning into a positive. And that was the wildfire over 2 Mile. They're looking at that particular round and the fiber that's on that. I think at one stage or another, that will be a consideration for us getting our community forest, that particular wildfire, because there's a lot of fiber that needs to be removed from that. All right, that's my report. That's enough from your mayor right now, but let's go into the next recommendation of the committee of the whole now rise and report. I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Aries, all in favor? Carried. And then public input. We have a lot of people that are here. Is there anybody with their hands up right now, Sarah, that might want to comment?
Yes. There's a Rob and Debbie Wiedemann and a Debbie.
All right. We got a hand.
First.
Rob and Debbie.
Rob and Debbie, okay, Rob and Debbie, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you folks hear me?
Okay, anyway, you have your hand up, you have concern in regards to what might be on the agenda tonight and
Just a comment is that thank you for everybody's for updates with regards to where everyone's been at in the last few weeks and what's happening in this community. The one thing is I was just being mindful of the update with regards to the wellness center and looking at different revenue streams. I think my background, just to folks who don't know me, I've got 40 years of working as a social worker with persons with addictions and mental health. So when you look at building a wellness center in a very small community that is primarily tourism, I don't understand sort of the rationale of is it going to be a revenue stream? So people are going to be paying to attend a treatment program for 3 weeks and that revenue is coming back to Sicamous and its residents? Because with that then, as we know, is that it's not just the addiction piece that has to be managed, it is all the other aspects. And because, again, we're working with a very limited population and the population that is just driven by seasonal and vacations from other vacationers from other provinces, I'm very quite concerned with regards to how this is going to be for obviously for future councils and how this is going to impact the residents of Sicamous.
go ahead,
And that's
Councilor King.
I can answer some of that. The Shuswap Healing Center is also going to be the home for our existing Sicamous Medical or Health Center. Right now, the patient panel there is 2,600. The population of our community is 2,600. Not just a tourism destination, we're a community. We need to keep healthcare in our community. So we're already a regional center for health because we're servicing more people than we have in our community. But that's going to be a new home for our community health center. We're going to go roughly from 2,500 square feet to roughly 7,500 square feet for our primary care outside of mental health and traditional healing. We're using that as a tool to retain and attract doctors. A lot of communities are losing their clinics. We're fighting to use every tool we can to keep healthcare in our community for our young families, for the general population, and for our seniors so they can age in place. We currently subsidize our Sicamous Health Center by about roughly $155,000 a year to maintain health care in our community. We spend over $300,000 a year in recreation. We spend over $1 million in operations to fix potholes and keep our sewer and water running. I think it's also important to address healthcare in our community. If you don't have healthcare, young families aren't going to move here. Seniors are going to have to move away so they can access healthcare, and we start to lose our community. Then we truly are just a resort town.
No, and I understand that, and I think it is important to have that. But my question wasn't answered with regards to, is the treatment center going to be a place where people are going to pay to come and receive their treatment, and does that revenue go back to the Sicamous, the public coffers or whatever?
Hello, my name is Kelly. I'm the CAO for the district of Sicamous. So right now we're working with different groups. For example, the Eagle Valley Resource Society, who's already offering a lot of different services, and they get grant funding for that. So they are going to just move those services and operate them within the healing center. So there will be a mix of different situations. The goal is not to charge people for these services, but to get funding from different organizations to cover the services so people can use the services. Does that make sense?
Well, and there's like the Sunshine Coast has private facilities for treatment, and it's people pay the money to attend it, so it doesn't come out of the taxpayers' money to have residents there. So that is who are attending. So that is my question. Is it a publicly funded that the residents of Sicamous or through their healthcare system are paying for it, or is it going to be privately funded and the client who was accessing it will be paying for their treatment program?
It will be a bit of both. It'll be a bit of both. We're working the programming and that piece out as we speak. And Debbie, I would love to sit with you and we can talk about this more.
All right, Councillor Anderson, I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer. And but Debbie, we're going to have to move on after Councillor Anderson makes her point. Because there's other hands up and we've only have 15 minutes in this particular session. So Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
So I just want to clarify one thing. It's not a treatment center. It's triage, the same thing that we have now with our resource center. If someone feels that they have a problem with alcohol or drugs, they touch base with our resource center. And what they do is they take those folks and they recommend them and send them to treatment centers. This is our medical clinic, an all-inclusive regional medical clinic, not a treatment center. So I think that that's a miscommunication in the district with some of our folks. And I needed to just clear that up. And Teresa's sitting there nodding her head as well. It's not a treatment center. So we shouldn't refer to it as such.
And there will be lease space in there. We're working with a pharmacist to have a small space in there to generate some revenue. So it will have some physio that there will be people paying for. So it will be a combination of everything.
All right, thanks, Debbie. Thanks for your input. And so I got to cut you a bit short that if you wish to continue the conversation and, you know, staff is available and counselors are available it's as well for input. All right, so Deb Heap, you're on, I see your hand up. Deb, you want to comment? Are you there, Deb?
Deb, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, I got muted again somehow. Anyway, yeah, just a quick follow up to what Ryan said. Very successful Fungi Festival. Big thank you to the district, ECDEV, Chamber, and all our other partners. I will give an update to you guys at the next council meeting, but I just wanted to let you know we made some money. It was very successful, and I think we're well on our way to being a sustainable festival going forward.
All right, thanks, Deb, for that. It was very successful, and thanks for stepping up once again and making that happen. All right, we've passed the 15-minute mark. We're going to go on to public and statutory hearings. Okay, just 1 second. I have to apologize. I have a gallery here, and so I'm going to give you another 5 minutes. So anybody from the gallery that would like to go ahead, Dawn, you're up.
Apologize for having my back to you. Want to make sure you're going to hear. I would like to have a small conversation about the development permit for 200 Main. I spoke to one of you today and was encouraged to come and bring my thoughts forward. I'm not against having a healing center in Sickness. I want to make that very, very clear. I think that everyone within our community and around could use the services. What I am asking tonight is that we postpone the vote on the development permit for 200 Main in order to clear up some of the miscommunication within this community. Councillor Anderson, you just said it. There is way too much miscommunication. You've got the grant application that is currently floating around out there. I've read it. And you've got the verbiage that was continually placed out there by your former CAO. They don't match. And it's some people in the community have taken it and they've run with the mismatches and misalignments. And I think it would be very beneficial. Take the time. I know we don't want to take any more time. We don't want to delay this. It's needed now. But we need to take the time to ensure we have a community that's united and going forward. I've been part of this community for over 50 years. And I've never seen it so diverse. It's not good. You've got people going up against one another. And we really, in order to be successful as a community and go forward, we need to work together. I understand that you're trying to put this through and that business can't stop because there's an election in 17 days. And I also understand that there may be some different faces at the table, and it may be taking a couple of steps back in order to bring them up to speed and get them educated. But I think from my perspective, and I see a lot of people, both in my own business and in my day job, that feel the same way. And I hope that you guys can just understand that we're not against it. We're just necessarily need more time. And I know that's ridiculous because we've taken so much time already. But with all the misinformation that's out there, we really need to clear it up and get the facts out there. Clear, concise, communicated facts. And right now, there's a lot of unclear, unconcise untruths. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Don. So that'll be up to council tonight because it's part of the agenda, and so we'll be making that decision, but point well taken. Thank you. All right, I'm going to allow one more person from the gallery in order to make a comment, and then we'll have to move on. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in regards to what's taking place here tonight? All right, and I'm not seeing anybody, so thanks to the gallery. Thank you, Dawn, for that input. Public and statutory hearings. Okay, so we've got a very, very full agenda, and so I'm going to turn this over to Scott, but not until after I read this public hearing opening statement. At this public hearing, council will consider District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 to consider replacing the existing zoning bylaw. Zoning bylaw number 1000 will be introduced by staff, and staff will provide synopsis of the proposed zoning bylaw. Following the introduction, I will open the floor to presentations by the public. Scott, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this public hearing, council will consider District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 to replace District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 101/1993. The public are invited to make presentations to council, and all persons who believe their interests and properties affected by the proposed zoning bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed zoning bylaw number 1000. Please direct all your comments through the chair. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this hearing to debate the merits of the proposal with individual citizens. Please observe these rules, and if you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, direct your comments to the chairperson. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. If you'd like to make a presentation, raise your hand. If you're attending through Zoom to speak during the meeting, please click the hand icon to raise your hand electronically, and you'll be in the queue to speak. Your final opportunity to comment on the proposed District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 during this hearing, as members of council are not permitted to receive further submissions after the close of the hearing. Again, please direct all your comments to the chair by raising your hand electronically or raising your hand in the regular way. I will now provide a review of the zoning bylaw number 1000. So on the screen, you can see the zoning bylaw map. The bylaw was given second reading as amended in May 11th of 2022. And it consists of new definitions and new zones, and that makes up Schedule A of the bylaw. And then the new zoning maps, which makes up Schedule B, and floodplain requirements, which are Schedule C, and parking requirements, which are Schedule. So the bylaw was given second reading as amended on the 11th of May, and there have been some amendments since then as we went through the consultation process and from feedback we received. And so these comments are summarized here on this slide, and I'll just read them up. There's Schedule A, Part 3, Section 3.1, permitted uses in all zones, and added K, District Sycamore owned and operated or administered parks and trails. Schedule A, Part 3, Section 3.3, added accessibility language for future councils. So there's some language around accessibility in zoning, and we left that open-ended for future council policy. Schedule A, Part 4, Section 3, mobile home parks. We amended the zone, so the setbacks and regulations of the zone. And then Schedule A, Part 4, Section 4.4.1, added a site-specific regulation for 433 Finlayson Place. That's a strata Eagles Roost. They asked for a specific regulation. Some mapping changes, 1106 McLean McPherson. At the time of second reading in May, it was zoned I1 industrial, and they asked to be zoned country residential. 813 Transcanada Frontage Road from C2 to R1. 515 Holly Avenue from country residential to A1. And then 50 and 100 Old Town Road, a portion that was zone C4 has been identified as RVP1, which is the RV park zone. And we did receive further information on how they'd want to divide up that property, and that's why it's recommended that be amended. And then 01 Sycamoose Creek Frontage Road, the R1 boundary is adjusted. We received a little bit more information that showed more clearly where the creek is and the boundary of the property. So that was adjusted at that time. So engagement, so we sent it out to a number of different referral agencies. Most of the comments came back in a positive manner, interest unaffected. Some of the agencies made recommendations and we tried to capture those where we could. We had a number of open houses, both online and in person. We had some stakeholder meetings. We did a lot of consultation over the last little while. So we included that with our housing, our parks and trails, and our short-term rental consultation. And our last events were on July 15th and August 5th. We did advertise for the public hearing. So that was advertised in 2 issues of the 2 newspapers. And yeah, just the second slide on the engagement. I don't think I need to go through all those. Most of those were received. I think all of them were received prior to the May 2nd reading. We did receive 1 written comment. So that was from Eileen Doonan. She's a council member at the Legacy, and she asked that the property that the Legacy's on be rezoned from MUR2, which includes tourist accommodation, to MUR1, which is multi-unit residential, and that change has not been made. And yeah, that's the end of my presentation, but I need to answer questions and the public if that's what you choose to do.
Okay, so this can be a 2-part process. So we have the gallery here. So if anybody would wish to speak on behalf of this public hearing, and Scott has given you a breakdown on the zoning bylaw number 1000. So I'm going to give the gallery the first opportunity to speak on behalf of this. If I don't see any hands up, then I will then go to what's online. So I do see a hand up. Steve, did you want to comment on this? So yeah, you have the floor. You're the first one that can address this zoning bylaw. Go ahead.
Thanks.
And hopefully Scott can answer your questions as well as us.
Absolutely. I just have one question. I have here the document, same mapping that I just saw a minute ago. This was printed off at the US website. And at the time that it was printed, it was past the second rezoning meeting. And the piece of property that I would like to ask about is it's marked on this rezoning map as P3 Park General, that being 200 Main Street. I'm curious, has that changed or is it still in this document?
Scott?
Yeah. So it has changed. So right now the zone is P5 Healing Center. So at one time, you're right, it was P3 and it's been changed to P5 Healing Center. So it's a unique zone.
Right.
Applies to that property.
And Scott, would I be correct to say that that's when this was printed, it already passed second reading?
I don't know when you'd printed that one.
That's what my notes show.
Yeah.
That it had been.
Yeah.
An August meeting.
Right.
I'm curious as to how that could happen without a lot of public input or any public input, is how a rezoning of something that is published by the district signals. And that changed.
So this is the opportunity for public input.
That's all I have to say about it. I think you get my gist. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the gallery? All right, who do we have online?
Eileen Doonan has her hand raised.
Eileen? All right, Eileen, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm giving you the opportunity to speak on this. Go ahead.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, Eileen.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it's regarding the zoning bylaw number 1000. Any comments or questions you have on that? And hopefully Scott can answer, and we'll see where we go with this. So you have the floor.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. Mayor and council, appreciate it. I've got a couple of colleagues with me. Darren Holst is on the line. Sorry, let's back up. I'm the current strata president for Legacy EPS 104. We're located at 326 Mirror Lake Lane. Darren is our council treasurer. I think Brent Parker is on. He's also a council member. And we had, had communication. We've attended a lot of your open houses. We appreciate that opportunity for input. There's a couple of things that I did want to address. And I think where I'll start is right out of the gate, Scott, when you indicated our zoning a few moments ago. Our zoning is actually was zoned for single family. We were never zoned for multi-use residential, to my knowledge, allowing for short-term rentals. So I just want to make sure that that's cleared up. I have a couple of questions or maybe some observations and comments. First of all, obviously our main concern, and you've seen in our memorandum, is the safety concern that presents itself on Mirror Lake Lane. The sheer congestion of traffic, forget about short-term rentals, just what's there right now is overwhelming to our facility. The street parking, if you were to look in your coffers of bylaw infractions, you would see a good chunk of the revenue that's coming in is due to illegal parking on Mirror Lake Lane, because they're just, I think you would all admit, it's not adequate. We are now faced with people, and I think you will have seen the communications we've sent and the pictures. There's numerous vehicles now parking on the shoulder of Highway 97A, which is a huge safety concern. We absolutely don't want anybody to be injured, harmed. We don't want any fatalities on that road. And so that's number one, first and foremost. And we want to partner with you guys in a solution to address that. What bothers us, I think, the most is that there's been no reach out back to us to say, hey, we recognize this. We understand that this is a pain point for you. How can we work together? There's been no traffic studies done. There really is I haven't seen any indication from the district that they've acknowledged it and that they want to work with us to somehow come together for a good resolution, number one. I think the other thing I heard tonight, Scott, and thanks for sharing, was that a few organizations such as Eagle Roost and others have come forward and made requests for different aspects of zoning. And you have granted those. And yet our ask not to be rezoned until we internally sort this out with you has been largely fallen on deaf ears. And it's disappointing. I'm sure there's a rationale. I'd be really interested to hear what that is. And then I think thirdly, we saw from Samantha Lewis that they actually did not approve the request. The Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure has rejected this zoning bylaw application. And so I'm interested to hear how we can give it second and third readings when they themselves in the letter have said, until the district can come back with mitigation plans in place for areas of concern, they are not approving the request. So, and I'm not a district council member, so I don't know if there's a process that I'm missing, but I would assume you would work with the Ministry of Transportation, get some understanding, get some alignment, fill in the gaps, mitigate their areas of concern and ours, and then bring it back for second and third reading.
All right, thanks, Eileen. Scott?
Yeah, you want me to answer those questions?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. So yeah, definitely your requests haven't fallen on deaf ears. We've worked pretty hard to listen to everybody, and I think your emails, I think you've sent 3 or 4 emails. They've gone out to council throughout the process, and your latest email did go out to all of council and is included in the public hearing minutes. You're right. So right now you're zoned CD 12, I believe. I think it's a unit zone for your property.
Correct.
And
Correct.
And right now there's you're right, short-term rentals or tourist accommodation is not a permitted use in that zone.
Correct.
So I guess to address the parking issue, it's definitely, a very serious issue. And we've tried to address that through our parking bylaw. And we feel that the better route is going to be through our business license bylaws. So I understand that Legacy has difficulty managing the short-term rentals within the building. And the district Sicamous has a difficult time managing short-term rentals through parking bylaws and other bylaws, noise bylaws. So I think the business license bylaw is going to be the tool that's going to be best to address that.
Sorry, Scott, can I just ask about that? And I hate to interrupt, but it's very timely. What I'm missing in all of this is where is that component of the bylaw? Because unless you do them together, basically how it looks is you're going to rezone us whether we want to or not, which I find fundamentally flawed. Because we've proven by way of evidence to you, we're not ready. The parking is a gong show. Somebody's going to get hurt or killed, and it will be on all of us because we didn't listen. And then number 2 is, where are the lower level procedures? Like you must have a business license. You could own, like, where is all of that? Because one without the other is somewhat unenforceable.
Right. So it is included in the zoning bylaw.
Can you tell me what page?
Yeah, in the general regulations. I'd have to need some time, but it is in the general regulations. And so it requires a business license. It requires you provide off-street parking only, local responsible person, 2 adults per bedroom. In the R1 and 2 zone, it manages the number of units that would be available. And then, in the MUR2 zone, which is the zone that's proposed for the Legacy, it would permit seasonal accommodation use, but there's the next step would be the business license bylaw. So we have been working towards amending our business license bylaw, starting with some information forms. So that is all going to come, but those other regulations are in the bylaw right now in part 3, general regulations, starting at page 31. And you should be able to find those. Going back to, I guess the last question is about Ministry of Transportation. So the next step after the bylaw receives, if the bylaw council chooses to give the bylaw 3rd reading, we refer it to the Ministry of Transportation, and Ministry of Transportation would need to approve it. And it's been on ongoing discussion with Ministry of Transportation on what they're going to require to approve the bylaw. And one of those is a community transportation plan, and we're working with them on a community transportation plan. And we really won't know until council chooses not to give the bylaw 3rd reading, and we refer it to Ministry of Transportation, and then we can start that discussion with Ministry of Transportation about what that transportation plan is going to look like.
Eileen, thanks for your input. Thanks for your questions. We have 2 other people that would like to their case, so I'm going to just move on. And you heard what Scott had in reply, so I hope you digest that. And at this stage, I'm going to have to move to another speaker. So
sorry, I appreciate the time. Here's what I will leave you with. I have not yet got an answer as to why You're arbitrarily rezoning us when we have expressly written in 3 times now, do not rezone us until we can sort out the safety issues that present itself up and down Mare Lake Lane. I've not heard anyone address that question.
Okay, thanks, Eileen. I'm gonna allow Scott to answer this again. Go ahead, Scott.
We try not to rezone anybody arbitrarily. We're looking at the official community plan, what that is, and then the existing use and what that is. And right now, the existing use in the legacy is largely short-term rentals. You asked about
illegal short-term rentals.
Yeah,
Okay.
you asked about Eagles Roost and why we chose to go a different direction with them. And it's because we didn't want to take away a use. We prefer to give a use and not take away a use. So that's probably the reasoning behind that. And honestly, we've heard from many people in every strata. We've met with a number of strata councils. And in the legacy, we've heard from a number of people who want that short-term rental maintained.
But does that trump the safety concerns that we've presented to you, Scott? Like, I'm unclear. You have a formal council that's job is to govern the facility, and yet you're choosing to override that ask to say, hold tight. We're not saying don't ever rezone us. Hold tight for now until we can get the safety issue sorted out. That's what we're asking. We never once said, don't rezone us permanently. We're saying, hold on, let's sort this out. Let's work together. Let's collaborate so that we don't kill somebody on Highway 97A. And yet you're choosing to override and dismiss that request, formal request, I might add, respectful request, nobody has ever picked up the phone and called me, ever. You've just responded, yeah, we got your email. Okay. Sure, I find that somewhat inadequate. I'll leave it there. I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thanks, Eileen. Point well taken. All right, great. Need to move on. So who's next up on there first?
We have Brent online.
Brent? Okay, you're next. Your comments and concerns regarding.
Okay, Brent Harden from 423 Old Spell Road. I'm just reading the engagement comments from the Columbia Regional District. And what concerns me is them wanting to apply their bylaw 900 again within Sicamous, applying their beliefs to our town. And then looking at the foreshore zoning, which I believe in the new bylaw 1000 has some of their property where the proposed rail trail is right now is R1, and they're asking that you change that to park zone. Are you realistically looking at that, or is this just an engagement from them and moving on and applying the R1 as it's situated?
It's got.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 issues. One is the bylaw 900, and there was requests from the CSRD to have our foreshore zone mirror their bylaw 900, and we chose to maintain our own foreshore zone that's different from theirs. And yeah, I think they asked for some of the areas to be designated as park. But yeah, again, we chose not to designate the foreshore as park. We have a kind of a general marine zone, which allows private moorage, and that wouldn't be permitted in the park zone. So we're going to maintain that. And right now, you're right, the rail trail, like in the existing bylaw, is zoned residential, and in this bylaw, it is zoned residential.
Okay, and you're going to maintain that if this is passed as such?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brett. All right, so moving on, who's next? Rob and Debbie?
I have Rob and Debbie Weidman.
Yeah, thank you again for your time.
Okay.
I just, a couple of comments that I've had and just with the rezoning bylaws and such, is that this definitely seems like a process that is expediting without having really clear answers provided to the residents of Sicamous. The one concern I had is that I've sat in the gallery and something is having a robust discussion, only permitting like a few minutes, and then the time is cut off, just as it was with Eileen. I think if we were to look at pitting zoning this street against that street and that street, as opposed to really doing what the town should be involved in with regards to enforcing the bylaws, the parking bylaws, all those concerns that are safety concerns and public safety concerns. But to rezone streets, this street and that street, it is going to pit neighbors against neighbors, and it's not going to be for a healthy community. So I think if we are looking at short-term rentals, is that one of the concerns that I have is that the policing aspect. I think if you were to look at, if we were to go forward, is that having a management company to do that, but to go and say to have to rezone and to have the input from your neighbors, I'm incredibly concerned with regards to that. So you will not have sort of building up communities. I think you'll be breaking down communities. And that's my comment.
You have a comment on that, Scott?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
There's one more on
Any other hands up?
Darren Holst.
Hi,
Yeah.
thanks for the time. I'm following up from what Eileen was saying, because I'm basically in the same unit. So Scott, I heard your rationale that you don't want to change the use, but what we have is council strata. We hear all sides of the equation from our building. That's what we do. That's what we're hired for, volunteer for. There is less than 25% of people that actually rent short-term rentals in our building. I find it unfortunate that they have swayed whatever vote that you think is here on presence on the table here. So, and they're renting illegally, and we are changing the enforcement right away. So there's also 75% of our owners are going to get rezoned with something that they didn't buy into. They didn't understand when they purchased this property. They knew the zoning at the time. Councils in the past have not did the zoning infractions like we should have on short-term rentals. And now this is going to add more fuel to the fire and just pit neighbor against neighbor, like the last caller said. So we're really hoping for the district to be thought leaders to help us to actually take time and listen with us. And we know what the population in our building wants and is asking for. So again, we ask that you say that, talk to us and let us know what we can do to work together. The second point is that we talked to the ministry, and they were quite surprised when we brought to attention all the safety concerns and the highway parking on 97A. And they were way more open to work with us and be receptive to that. So that is an avenue we will continue to pursue. But I'm hoping that you guys would reach out to them as well, like you said, and actually work with them, because they were pretty shocked that we're going to third reading already without hearing anything from you guys. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Darren. I have a counselor here that would like to speak to that. So Counselor Malmus, go ahead.
We don't think that, because I'm the chair of the Planning and Development Committee, so this came up earlier today in the meeting, which I don't think that either you were online for, but we've had a couple of condo stratas basically make their own bylaw that there is no short-term rentals within their building. And that's your recourse. But they're still zoned to have short-term rentals, but the bylaws within your own strata are the ones to stop it entirely. So if you have 75% of the strata people there that don't want it, then it should be a pretty straightforward vote to have no short-term rentals within the building. So we don't want to be in the police business, because you're asking us to hire staff to police your problem when you can have your own strata council decide by vote at an AGM that you're not going to allow short-term rentals. So the reason for coming up with a business license was so that you would have to meet the criteria to actually have a short-term rental, rather than rezoning the properties like an earlier participant said. We're not rezoning properties. You're going to apply for a business license, and it's going to be a temporary basis, my understanding, until you prove that you're gonna follow the rules, that you'll have somebody there to answer the phone, that you'll deal with the altercations that might happen from a short-term rental. So that's not the district of Sycamoose's job. That's your strata's job. So all you have to do is have a meeting and pass a bylaw that there's no short-term rentals, and then you police it yourself however you like. But I don't think the taxpayer should pay for God or somebody else or us hire more people to go out and police your building. That's not what we're here for. Sorry.
Can I comment back?
Go ahead. One more comment.
Okay, I appreciate and understand what you're saying, but I think also, I don't know if it's the district's plan to have, the parking nightmare that's going on and the safety issues. Last time I was out at Sycamoose, there was 7 cars parked along 97A. If something happens on the accident, where's that responsibility lay? We have firmly said this is a problem. We will be the ones that say, absolutely, we talked about it. So now it's up to you guys to be thought leaders and, do the right thing. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. State your name, please.
Kim Thompson.
Yep.
I own Pine Resorts. So I have a question because I'm a little bit confused. So what is the purpose of rezoning? If all we have to do is have a meeting, and we have AGMs, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't pose the question at the AGM for you people as well to take a vote and find out, because I know in our complex, I don't think there's half that rent short term. So I'm kind of concerned why the rezone. And also it said something about taxes were going to be raised substantially. What is substantially to you, and are they going to be raised for the people that don't rent?
Comment.
Sure, I guess the question about the zoning is like essentially every single property in town is getting a new zone. It's a new zoning bylaw. And we looked at the existing uses and the official community plan and the feedback we received from people and tried to be as fair as possible. We applied those zones. The tax question isn't really a zoning question at all. So I really can't answer that. Typically your taxes are based on how you use the property, not how it's zoned.
But a commercial property is zoned commercial and it's taxed accordingly.
As a commercial property could be, it's based on the use of it. So the BC assessment assigns the value based on the use of the property, not necessarily on the zoning.
So why not take the opportunity at AGM to find out what each strata actually does? And whether there is a majority that do not rent versus those that do rent. And then make those people take the business license out instead of doing a full rezone.
Go ahead.
So just, I guess, you're in White Pine and we did meet with members of the Strata Council of White Pine, and it seemed to me that they were split on whether they supported or didn't support short-term rentals. We did receive a lot of feedback from people at White Pines. And again, it was split, people who agreed with or disagreed with short-term rentals. It's if you at your strata meeting, like Councillor Malma said, want to have a vote and 75% of the people vote one way or the other, you have the ability to police it. So the district of Sycamore doesn't want to be policing a whole bunch of stratas. We want to leave it to the stratas to come up with their rules. We can then use our business license bylaw as a tool to enforce our business license bylaw. And hopefully we can address noise and parking, which are the 2 big issues with stratas.
So whether it's zoned for short term or not, the business license has to be taken out one way or the other. It would have to be policed one way or the other. So why the difference in the zone? I don't understand that. And again, the tax, it's specified that it wouldn't go up substantially. Will it go up?
I can speak to that. So I'm the chief financial officer here as well. And so I have spoken to BC Assessment, and BC Assessment, it isn't specifically, it's about what class it is. Is it business class or is it residential? Because business pays more tax than residential. And basically what they've said is they're not policing short-term rentals as the use constantly changes from year to year. It would be an administrative nightmare for BC Assessment to change that. So more likely it will remain residential. And if there's ups and downs, it's based on assessment values and our tax rate that we set. Does that make sense?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's just, I'm still confused as why we need to go to the short term. Why not just implement the business license? And the other thing is, like I said, you've got AGMs that come up. And why do we need to zone differently if that complex actually wants to say what it is now? If you do an AGM vote. That's just like it is.
Thank you very much. It is somewhat complex. I have to agree. Okay, so we have one, I'd like to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. This is a public hearing. And so is there anybody else online right now? I don't want to see a second comment from the same individuals. If there's an alternative person, then we'll move into that. So is there another person that would like to speak?
Those online have already had an opportunity.
Oh, they've already had an opportunity. That's fine. Is there someone else that would like to speak that hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet?
Yes, I'd like to speak, please.
Okay, and
Sorry, can you say your name, please?
My name is Craig Maxwell. I own at Legacy on Mara Lake. I only have one simple question.
Okay, go ahead.
I've spoken to Scott and Sarah many times over this. I would like to know why our building is being rezoned to legitimize illegal rentals. Why are you doing this to us?
So the recommendation.
You're making rentals legitimate when right now they're illegal. I'd like to know, and I just want a simple answer, why?
Go ahead, Scott.
I think it's the direction we've received from council, and it's the recommendation of staff that the best tool to regulate short-term rentals is through the business license bylaw, and giving stratas the opportunity to vote on them. And then we can use the business license to enforce the conflicts we see with short-term rentals.
Okay, just one last question and I'll let you go. If rentals continue in our building, and we as a council reject them, will you grant business licenses?
No.
So if your council votes, or if your strata members vote to not allow short-term rentals in your building, then we won't issue business licenses in that building.
Well, that's good. One last question. I'm sorry. And if somebody breaks that law and rents anyway, will the town enforce it if I inform you of somebody renting without a business license?
In 2023, we are going to start enforcing short-term rentals. We're going to start having bylaw enforcement against short-term rentals. Yes.
So your bylaw officers will, if I phone, will come to our building and confront somebody who is illegally renting?
No, what the goal is that we'll confront the owner who's renting illegally. The bylaw officer will not be going and confronting people who are renting illegally. They'll confront the owner of the property.
Oh, I don't mean the renters yet. So somebody who owns a unit who is renting against the rules, but then the town will enforce that bylaw. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So I think we've given everybody an opportunity, right? Is there anybody else? I know this is a public hearing. I got to bring this to an end sooner or later.
just to be clear, there are two hands up. If they have,
See that, I see there's hands up, but are they already people that have already spoken?
sorry, I would just, Eileen and Rob, if you want to take your hands down, if you don't have any new information. It looks like their hands are still up, so do you want to invite them to present their new information?
There's still hands up there. I can. Okay, we got.
Rob and Debbie.
Thank you so much. And, and this is a pretty, obviously, some interest to the public, and that's why we have some rebuttals when we hear all the information. So the one thing is there was a lot of discussion with regards to the stratas, but with regards to the residents and rezoning of residential streets and different houses and such. Can I receive clarification if that rezoning, like you won't have part of the street as commercial, the other just residential and such? It's just if you're choosing to have a short-term rental, you have to get a business license or a company to manage the short-term rental. Can you clarify that, please?
Go ahead, Scott.
So in the R1 zone, so that's kind of the, traditional residential zone. You'll be allowed a one dwelling unit, which is, your single family dwelling, or you're allowed a second dwelling unit. So that second dwelling unit could be within the single family dwelling, we'll say a basement suite, or it could be an accessory building. So that could be, a carriage house or a garden suite. So you'd be allowed two dwelling units per property, or you can have one dwelling unit and one sleeping unit, and that sleeping unit would be a short-term rental. So in order to have a short-term rental on your property, there'd have to be a dwelling unit. So there'd have to be the permanent home of a family, and then you could then have the sleeping unit, but you couldn't have a sleeping unit on its own. So you wouldn't be able to rent out your property without having that dwelling unit on the property.
See, and that to me is that the community now is policing how people who build their homes or what they want to do for the seasonal homes, is that the Sicamous is now policing what is happening. And also then there'll be a concern with regards to, in my opinion, because it is a seasonal vacational destination, is that, and families have shifted for how they want to holiday with their families. And I don't understand the rationale, and it just seems like you're really putting a burden on with regards to those folks who own homes within Sicamous.
All right, thank you. There's one more hand, I think.
Eileen.
Eileen.
Muted.
Sorry, I was waiting for somebody to hit unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for taking me. I understand this is a painful topic, I'm sure, for you guys and for us too. So appreciate the time that you allow us. A couple of things. One of our grave concerns is safety. I've not heard one person today on the call other than us talk about the safety. Do we actually collectively think that it's safe for people to be parking on the shoulder of 97A? I don't think any of you would agree. Nobody's talking about that. So, zoning has to come with thoughtfulness. I think Darren said it best when we say thought partners. That's our job as leaders. We need to be thinking about the what ifs and what can we reasonably mitigate. And I don't hear anybody talking about that. I hear a few people called us, so we think it's easier to just rezone you. I don't think that's the right approach, and I would hope you would see the light on that. The other thing that gives us grave concern is this, what are we calling it? The bylaw, the business license bylaw. Where is that business license bylaw? Like, is it written? Is it enforceable? Is it, because one without the other it'll be the wild, wild west, right? So I don't think we want to go backwards. We want to go forward. So they have to go hand in hand. I don't see that business license bylaw anywhere.
All right, thank you. Gord?
Yeah, through the chair, Eileen, it's Gord Bushel. I'm a counselor and I just wanted to comment on the parking issue. I've done a development in Sycamoose as well, and when I built the development, I had to provide parking for our condo sales. We did that. We don't allow any parking outside of our facility. And you guys are blessed with that extra laneway there. And some of your residents, and I've looked at them, they're not actually, the people that are parking on the other side of the highway or on the highway are actually residents that live here year round. So why don't why do they not park in their own units underground? Can you answer that?
Well, I don't park on the highway, so I can't actually say, but the rationale was that there would be adequate parking. I mean, we can walk down memory lane if you'd like and think about what was promised to the district at the time the occupancy permit was granted for Legacy back in 2008. But here nor there, I don't park on the highway, so I can't actually say, but what I will say is this, regardless of who is parking there, it's an obligation on all of us to ensure that nobody gets killed. I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want any family to go through that. And we're not asking for the moon here. We're just asking to take a pause. Let's be thoughtful. Let's work together. I'm very confident we can come to a reasonable mitigated plan. But to say we're public consulting, we gave you all of our information, and yet you come back and say, well, it's just easier to rezone us because 4 people called us and said they like to illegally short-term rental. I'm struggling to understand the rationale. Because we all have to live with this at the end of the day. None of you live at Legacy, right? We live at Legacy.
Well, I just wanted to, I'm getting back on the parking here, is, you know, if you were to park on Shaganappy Trail in Calgary and park your vehicle there and run over the fence and jump into your condo, you would get towed away like instantly. And that's probably what
it's Craig Maxwell again. People are parking on the highway who live here because there's so many renters parked on Mirror Lake Lane. There's no parking left.
All you have to do is shut down the renters and have a vote. It's your condos, it's your strata responsibility to.
So had you read our correspondence, you would see our bylaws today do not support short-term rentals. And for you to add on to that, rezoning to allow short-term rentals exasperates the problem. We're just asking for you to pause. Let's sort it out together and we'll go forward harmoniously. The way to build community isn't through this avenue. It's to ensure that we get the best out of everybody, right? And so instead of being, you know, defensive and argumentative, I know this is painful for you guys. It is for us too. We all get it. But I know I can see a way through this. But we have to be able to count on you. You're our elected officials. We elected you. You have an obligation to listen and to act. And I'm hoping and trusting and expecting that you will do that. That's all we're asking for, is let's get together.
Eileen, I thank you for your comments. And like I say, we've been working on this for 8 years. And, you know, and I appreciate your comments. And yeah, we have to make a decision. This has been going on for 8 years.
But here's the thing. No good decision is a decision made in haste. 8 years has been in and out, in and out, in and out. You've now been armed with some really good information. We can knock this out of the park if we get together, collaborate, and push it and get it to the right spot. Just hammering something over top of us I don't believe is a solid answer. And I think you guys don't think it is either.
All right, thanks, Eileen. I got a couple more people here in the gallery. Brian and then Steve.
As just a citizen of Sycamoose, when I listen to this argument, I find that stratas are not fulfilling their own bylaws. If they've said that there is no temporary use in Legacy, then why don't they police it?
Thank you, Brian. Okay, Steve. You're next, and then John.
First, I'd like to comment, I agree with the comment this gentleman just made, but I would like to ask a question. Does anyone here know how many doors there are in the stratas within Sycamores, within the boundaries of the district? Like, just sitting here quickly thinking there's 1, 2, 3, 4, so many stratas. There's a lot of stratas, correct? So there must be quite a few individual residents within. Most of those, or not most, but a lot of those are out of province ownership. You don't even get tax breaks. They pay the full everything. Myself, I live here full time, so unfortunately get a bit of a break. I think after listening, I mean, the safety is a concern. I truly believe that a lot of the stratas are not operated properly and bylaws aren't enforced, but I also believe that the district needs to implement and take possession, I guess, of some part of the enforcement of this. I think a solution is a bylaw and governance of it within the district, not a rezoning. I mean, but why would we rezone our properties? Like the legacy, let's use that as an example. It's zoned right now commercial, in waterfront or something. You're proposing to change the zoning on it and give 25% of the population in that building the power to rent, to come down here and pay to get a business license and then rent their unit. I agree that we need as ownership there to vote it out and work with the district, but I think the district needs to reevaluate in some areas. There's a lot of tax base that comes from stratas in this town. A lot.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Point well taken. John, you had a comment, and then I'm gonna have Councillor McCabe, but we're gonna have to end this at some point. No, we're gonna start till midnight. So anyway, but it's still really important. We're dealing with a public hearing, and that's why I'm gonna let this thing kind of play itself out. So you're up.
My comment is similar to Gore's in the sense of Highway 97 is a public highway. And I think any responsibility for enforcing speeding or passing through there or parking is not the town's responsibility.
All right, thank you. All right, Councillor McCabe, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe our CEO can help me out here. People who apply for principal residency in Sycamoose, I think in our housing stock, trying to answer Steve's question, I think in our housing stock in Sycamoose, and help me out here, please, Kelly. I think only 45% of our housing stock in Sycamoose has applied for homeowner grant.
34, it's more like 34%.
Okay, 34% of our housing stock in Sycamoose has applied for a homeowner grant. So there you go, 66% are seasonal, you would think by assumption.
That was my point.
So this bylaw is trying to address that.
It's an issue.
All right, Councillor Malmus.
And in my portfolio, the zoning bylaw was fine. It's been 7 years. You have to realize that the zoning bylaw affects development. It affects the growth of our town. 1993 was when our zoning bylaw, it's archaic. Everybody that comes into this office and wants to build a postage stamp has to get here for a variance. It's ridiculous. We have a lot more important things to do than issue variances that are actually reasonable. So the redo of the entire zoning bylaw was to streamline R1 housing setbacks from corners, make it uniform. It's not just about the stratas. Like, it's the whole community. The rezone was for the whole community, not for the 10 or 12 stratas that are in town. As stated, some of those stratas wanted to have short-term rental. With no zoning bylaw for short-term rental at all, we have no way to enforce it. The stratas themselves can enforce. They don't want short-term rental, they can have an AGM, they can come up with those, and then the district will not issue a business license. Then if they do it, then we have a leg to stand on. We can go ahead and say, you're not allowed to do this. But right now, it's just the wild, wild west is all it is. We're trying to come up. We're trying to do our best. We looked at 10 or 12 other communities and how they did it. This zoning bylaw should have been passed a year ago, but the short-term rental came up. And so for the last year, we've spent all of our time trying to come up with a resolve for the short-term rental. And now we're gonna pass the zoning bylaw, and as usual, we have 50 people coming out of the cracks of the woodwork, but we've been talking about it for a year going, well, what about us? Your own stratas can police themselves. That's the end of it. And when you say there's no zoning, no short-term rentals, they will not get issued a business license. But they don't have a business license and somebody complains and says, yes, there's a short-term rental going on. We'll see the owner. It'll get corrected to the best of our ability.
All right, thanks for that, Councillor Malmus. We have to end the public and statutory hearing. So I usually call 3 times, but we're running out of time. We've done probably 45 minutes in this whole engagement. So I'm going to declare that the public and statutory hearing is now over, and I'm pretty sure that the conversation is going to continue. So Scott, you've heard what the public is their concerns, and later on we're going to be making a decision here. So anyway, thanks for your input, everybody online and including the gallery. And I now declare that this public statutory hearing is closed. Thank you. All right. So, council, I've just exited. Let's take like a 5-minute recess. Come on back. So 5-minute recess and have a bio break and then come back and then we'll. Give these our corporate officer an opportunity to get back here in their seat, and then Council Evans as well, so give them a few more minutes. Here they come. All right, we're going to reconvene the regular council meeting at 7:15. Thank you. So there is an amended second reading zoning bylaw number 1000/2022. The recommendation that the District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 be given second reading as amended this 28th day of September 2022. I need a mover on this. So Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any more conversation around this? Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Are we going to amend the zoning for? This is where we're going to do this here.
Council.
So not a friendly amendment, but I suggest that we add that the legacy remains zone as is MR one.
MUR1.
MUR1. It's no short-term rentals, but it's their problem. They police it. We'll never go in there.
So in this particular recommendation, it's suggesting as amended this 28th day of September. So if we're going to amend this thing, then we probably should have a second resolution in order to adjust this particular resolution as amended. Okay, so are you suggesting that right now, Councillor Malmus?
Well, I was suggesting that before you recommend that we vote on this second reading as amended September 28th, we need to have the legacy zoning change to MUR1. What it's currently zoned as.
So that is a separate resolution. So right now, okay, so let's table this particular recommendation. If you want to make that suggestion at this particular stage, Kelly, where are we going with this?
Oh, I think they could probably vote on the second and then maybe add it to the, what do you think, Scott? How would you like it?
So I don't think a motion has been made for second reading as amended, so
Yes, it has.
has it?
First and seconded.
Okay, so let's look at this. So so this be given second reading as amended. The second reading.
Yep.
Okay, so we could vote on this and then we could actually make another. Like, I kind of agree with what Councillor Malmus is trying to say. So I just got to get this right as to how we're going to deal with this, because we have a resolution on the table right now, both moved and seconded. Councillor Malmus, your comments, and then
If you, I'm not mistaken, if you vote on this as it is, then the way that the zoning bylaw is currently written right now is the one that's seconded. Is that not correct, Scott?
go ahead, Kelly.
We could add a further amendment and vote on that so that it's given a second reading as amended this day, and further that it be amended to modify the zoning for the legacy from MER 2 to MER 1. So that's a separate amendment to this resolution. So it's part of the second reading, and then we can read
Okay,
it.
that's going to get us to where we need to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, let's do what Kelly said there.
Yeah.
So how do we get that started?
So
I don't have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation, so we could just add that to this one.
perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works. So we don't have a mover and seconder for the first resolution, right? Okay, so we can add this to it. So let's get this on the table. Sarah, can you maybe, as Kelly just recommended, so that we can put this resolution into text so that we can vote on it? Okay.
Right. I'll say that. Did you want to, your hand is up, Scott, and I know this is your bylaw.
I'd recommend the amendment to that resolution being that the district of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000, 2022 be given second reading as amended, and to include legacy, and I have the PID if that would help to make it specific. Be identified on Schedule B as being zoned MUR1.
Great, that's good with that. Are you good with that, Kelly? Okay, do I have a mover on that? Councillor Malmus, I need a seconder. Councillor Anderson, any other comments or questions on this resolution? No? Go ahead, Councillor Aries.
To the chair, is the main difference between MUR1 and MUR2 the ability to have short-term rentals? If I could just step further, and if you are MUR2, you're allowed to have them, but the board the strata board would have the ability to allow them or not. So really, one's got built-in flexibility and the other doesn't. So, okay, so all these differences that we've been talking about are kind of all moot, assuming that their own democracy and their building works. Because I like the idea of keeping it simple, giving everyone the same zoning. They don't want it, that's great. But if in 5 or 10 years they decide that they want to allow it, that it would be the right, they can vote on it and we can start issuing business licenses, and they don't have to come back for a rezone and say, well, our members want to allow short-term rentals now. It seems to me the flexibility is a benefit unless you're trying to control future owners from having short-term rentals. Is it as simple as that?
Got it.
Got it.
Got it. Right, okay. Any other comments or questions on this particular resolution? Okay, Councillor Malmus.
So, yeah, I'm not The strata has the right to police it and say they don't want short-term rental.
Yes.
We're gonna change it back to exactly what they have now, which means there is no short-term rentals. Which means that at some time in the future, if a different strata says they want short-term rentals, they have to come back for rezoning. Okay? By changing it, we're only doing what 3 people we heard from. We're not hearing from the 60 boards. I'll actually think that it's our place to go with what 3 people said.
Well, that was the strata council we were listening to.
All of them, they're the entire.
They were satisfied on behalf of strata council.
So if that's what they're asking for, we give it to them. I'm not sure that they understood exactly what they were asking for.
Scott, you got a comment?
I was just gonna, is it recording? Just gonna ask Kelly that.
Yep, I started the recording a while ago.
Let's start recording in the,
It's saying rehearsing, so.
okay, sorry. Yeah, we haven't got anything official from the strata council. We have gotten input from members of the strata council, so.
Right, but we got a decision to make here now because we've got this resolution on the table and it's amended resolution, so I want to, okay, Counselor Anderson will.
Just one little quick question. I know this is dragging on. If they choose, if we do make this amendment, can they reapply or ask for a rezone later? So they can change back if they wish to do so. Okay.
Okay, yes, that's
Just
doable. Counselor Bushel and Counselor McCabe, and then I'm going to call a question.
Here, if you still have the president on the line, could you not ask?
Oh, okay, well, we can do that. We got.
The meetings, the thing's over, you can't do that. The hearing's over, you can't do that.
That's true. No additional information.
You can't ask that now.
Counselor McCabe, you had a comment?
Don't get the whole process killed.
So if we pass this with this as amended, or whatever you want to call it, to MUR1, that matches the existing zoning that currently applies to that legacy, that applies to legacy, right?
Pardon me?
Sorry, through the chair to Scott.
Nothing really changes.
If we vote to have the legacy MUR1, that matches the current zoning, right?
The current zoning.
But with a different name, but to get it in the bylaw 1000, we're calling something different, but currently the legacy is in the current zoning does not allow short-term rentals, correct? And if we vote for this MUR1, that keeps it status quo.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Counselor Moms.
By doing that, who's responsible to police it? Because now you've got that it's. So who's responsible, them or us?
We typically, the district would enforce their own bylaw, so if council chose to not allow short-term rentals legacy, then we'd still work on the same complaint-based process where through our business license bylaw, and we'd enforce the same way.
Go ahead, changes.
And some folks, thank you, and some folks online were concerned about no one's been addressing or acknowledging the safety issue. Well, MOTI, Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure, is still a referral agency even after this is passed. And a part of that referral is they'll have to deal with, I guess, the district of Sycamus and the legacy to ensure that safety is addressed, traffic safety. I mean, MOTI is a referral agency after this is passed, correct?
Yeah, MOTI is the approval agency after this is passed.
Okay, approval, okay, thank you for correcting me, right. So if they have any safety issues, you would think that would be addressed part of that approval process.
I would think so, but
thank you.
I'm speculating.
Right. Just that we're still thinking safety is part of this process, part of this approval process. We're not ignoring safety.
So Sarah, do you have that resolution? I would like it read over us. So that council has a clear understanding what the resolution is all about. So have you got it?
Yeah, so that District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 be given second reading as amended this 28th day of September 2022. And further that the bylaw be modified to include lot 1 plan KAP 86244 section 25 township 21 range 8 Meridian land district 25 on schedule B as being zoned MUR1.
Kelly, you okay? All right, any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'm gonna call a question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, Counselor Aries and Counselor Evans are opposed. Interesting. So the resolution is carried as amended. Thank you.
Yes. Why the opposition?
All right, so let's go into
No.
zoning bylaw.
Sorry, just your worship, just a point of order. Typically, we have a chance to ask for the reasons of the no vote.
Yeah, no, we can do that, sure. Point of order, so I'll take that seriously. Counselor Aries and Counselor Evans, can you give us some reasoning behind your decision?
I don't think we were presented with adequate information for the amendment.
Okay.
I was in favor of it prior to the amendment.
Counselor Evans?
To put it simply, what Ryan said earlier, I just don't think that we needed to amend it, and especially with the fact that MOTI has to approve this, and it said so in our reading, and so I just I didn't think that, and I agree with Ryan that the built-in flexibility was adequate. So,
all right, points well taken.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Counselor McCabe. You've got your answer there. It's been documented and the resolution is carried, and so we're going to move forward. So next, in regards to the zoning bylaw number 1000/2022, recommendation that the District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/22 be given third reading this 28th day of September 2022. And that the District of Sycamore zoning bylaw number 1000/2022 be referred to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to request statutory approval. Moved by Counselor Evans, second by Counselor Malmus. Okay, so now let's talk about this. Okay, Counselor McCabe.
Do we have to adjust that to say as amended?
I believe we do, just not. So, Kelly, where are we at with this?
No, because we already made the amendments on.
Already made the amendment.
Second reading. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder on this. All right, any other comments on this? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right.
I don't think so.
7:30, I think we're gonna be here till 9 or 10 o'clock. I hope the gallery is comfortable with that. We've got lots going on. Anyway, thanks for your patience as we move forward. This is what council does. Sometimes it's very complex. All right. All right, official community plan amending bylaw number 1025/2022 adoption recommendation that the District of Sycamore's official community plan amendment bylaw number 2025/2022 be adopted as presented this 28th day of September 2022. I need a mover on this. Counselor Aries, Counselor Malmus. It's an adoption, so any comments to this? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? You want to give me your?
For the same reason I did at the meeting where we we talked about it initially. Wasn't in favor of temporary use permits in new areas.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's been documented. The resolution is carried. Thank you. All right, staff reports, remedial action requirement order 1133 Paradise Avenue for informations. Scott, you want to give us a comment on this?
And so I included that, thank you, Chair. I included that report on the agenda for information that we now have the ability to move forward with the remedial action order at for the Secret Garden on Paradise Avenue. We're working with the owner to move towards a demolition, and I believe we're getting there, and they have applied for a demolition permit, so I was going to work with the owner on that demolition permit.
Perfect, thank you. Any comments or questions on this? Is there a resolution on this?
No, it's.
Really? Okay, it was just a comment. Okay, thank you. Right. Thanks for that, Scott. Then we'll carry on. Development permit number 22-279 DP 200 Main, recommendation that the District of Sycamoose authorize and issue development permit number 22-279 DP for the property legally described as Lot 3, District Lot 452, Kamloops Division, Yale District, Plan KAP 82575, located at 200 Main Street for the development of a health center. Okay, so this has been discussed. Take it into text by a local resident. So I'm going to ask a mover on this and a seconder, and then we'll have discussion on. Councillor Mullins moves it. I need a seconder on it. Councillor Evans, comments or questions from council?
I have a presentation.
Oh, Scott, go ahead first.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for development permit at 200 Main Street for the development of a health center. Staff's recommending that it be issued. Everybody knows where the property is. We're there this afternoon at 200 Main Street, right on the corner of Riverside Avenue. Here's the existing OCB designation, which is town center, and the existing zone, which is C1A town center, commercial residential. It's essentially the C1 town center with a residential component included. Here we have the site plan for the development permit. It's essentially a form and character development permit. The building is 1,400 square meters in size, and the property is 0.64 hectares in size, so that's about 1.5 acres. And it's within the town center development permit area. So the form and characters that you want to consider is avoiding long continuous blank wall, which this does. It's proposed to be clad with cedar woodlook metal cladding, glass and cultured stone, and it's such an architectural style that it doesn't appear to be continuous at all, and it meets the form and character conditions of the development permit area. The curving roof line is meant to reflect the mountains, forests, and lakes of the region, and as you can see, it'll be quite a distinctive building. There is a document that was provided by Douglas Cardinal, the architect, with the rationale behind the design. Going back to the site plan, there are 42 parking stalls plus 23 new parking stalls proposed for along Main Street. And parking area is about 2,100 square meters in size. There should be about 45% of the area of the property left over for enhanced green space. There's proposal for a sidewalk, treated wood enclosure for the garbage in the north. Landscaping proposes to maintain most of the existing trees and then adding some trees. Lighting would be downward facing cutoff lighting within the standard for the I think it's a foot candle lighting as required. But yeah, the development permit would have to adhere to the site plan as presented. And then also with as closely as possible to the drawing presented by Scott Builders and Doug Mover Architects. I believe Brian Marr might be on the line if you have any questions. We did send this out for engagement. We heard mostly positive things back. The engineering department is in support of it in principle. At the building permit stage, we'll have a closer look at the servicing for it. The Planning and Development Committee today recommended that it be approved.
Comments or question from staff or from council, sorry. Councilor Monmouth.
Yeah, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting today, there was a question asked about, which I asked months ago, about the idea of the roof being used as space at some point. And as much as you might like the roof to be usable space, it's a 900 to $1.2 million cost to make the roof have the support for live load traffic of people up there. So if you're gonna gather us up there, there's a formula for how many people can be up there based on the square footage of it. And so it would add a 900 to 1.2 million. So although it would be nice, it's not practical at this point. So that was, other than that, the parking and building and park space left over, along with the 3,000 square foot inside the building of community space, is a very acceptable ratio.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this, Councilor Anderson?
Yeah, there was a lot of concern, and Dawn, I appreciate your comments today, and I think that there is some misinformation, and I think I still think we need to do our due diligence as to what this building actually is, because I do get a lot of questions about it. Again, it's not a treatment center. It's our community healthcare center. It's all inclusive. It's going to be a place that's going to attract more doctors to our community, and healthcare, as Malcolm mentioned earlier, is important to keep young families here and keep our community alive and well. I think that half of this space, just about half of this space being left green space on Riverside and Main Street, is still a lot of beautiful green space. Just to walk up the sidewalk and you've got the beach park. We do have a lot of green space. I think this is going to be such a benefit for our community. We do need to continue to share the right message and make sure that our residents are educated as to what this is going to be. It is not a rehab center. It is a 9 to 5 medical center. No one gets to spend the night or gets treated in it. So I just want to make that clear. And we need to keep sharing that message and being informative. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, same as Councillor Anderson, really. We didn't rule out this from an information perspective properly. We could have done way better. We had the NIMBYs, not in my backyard, put out disinformation, calling it a park when it's not a park. It's a commercial zone property. We have business owners that are worried that it might impact their business. Again, putting out negative information that it's called a park and it's not a park. We have a website. If you know, on our district website, we have a page dedicated to the facts of the Shuswap Healing Center. To get an $8 million building built in our community at the cost of roughly $2 million to a local community. This will be a legacy. It'll help maintain healthcare in our community. We can use it as a tool to retain and recruit doctors and expand into mental health to help Truth and Reconciliations Actions 21, 22, and 23. Yeah, I support this. The drawings, the way I looked at the drawings, I might be wrong, but from my take on the drawings, we're going to lose seven trees off that site. All the rest of the trees are maintained.
All right, thank you. Other comments, Councillor Evans?
Thank you through the chair. I've spent a lot of time in coffee shops explaining to folks that when I go see my doctor now, he says, Mr. Evans, I'm going to recommend you see a dietitian. And I will go then see a dietitian, which actually happened in Salmon Arm. So, you know, I go see the doctor, he refers me to get the treatment that I need. And this is not a place that is going to in any way make Sycamoose worse. It's going to make Sycamoose better because it's going to be a beautiful facility that attracts people to this town and will make Sycamoose more attractive. And I think that we've put enough time to this that I'm going to vote yes for this today. And then we will continue to correct the disinformation as we go, but we can't wait forever in hopes that we're going to be able to correct every last wrong notion out there. So thank you.
All right, Councillor Bushel.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, I just, and I respect what Don was saying too, is, but you just got to understand, and all our fellow councillors are singing the same tune, is we're taking a medical center at the B-Stone building at Finlayson, and we're moving it over to 200 Main. Nothing's really going to change. It's going to be the same. We're going to probably attract more specialists, maybe dietitians, and but basically we're taking our medical center, putting it over in 200 Main Street, and we're repurposing this place. So, I mean, we can't get any better than what we've got here, and I think it's going to really enhance the community.
Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. It's carried. Carried unanimously. All right, moving on. Development permit application number 22-120 DP 540 Thompson Crescent. Recommendation that council authorize and issue development permit number 22-120 DP for the property legally described as Lot A, Section 1, Township 22, Range 8, west of the 6th Meridian, Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan, EP 112932, located at 540 Thompson Court to permit the development of an accessory building. I need a mover on this. Councillor Aries, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Scott, you want to give us a report on this?
And thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for an accessory building. It's over on Thompson Place in the industrial park. So this drawing's a little bit, or this air photo is a little bit old. If we looked at a current one, you'd see a whole bunch of semi-trailers parked on the property. So it's in the general industrial OCP designation, and it's zoned industrial. As you can see, it's outlined there on this drawing. And this is the site plan. They're proposing, although you can park your trailer there, and if you had a sea can and you're bringing the sea can in, dropping it off and moving it, or if you had a pile of sea cans that you're selling them, you could do that. But as soon as you tax it as a building, it becomes an accessory building and a development permit is required. So that's here today. They're proposing to the building will be white, may include a gray horizontal banding. Any rooftop mechanical equipment will be screened from view. And then any outdoor lighting will be downward facing. And nothing really interesting about the building, but it meets the requirements of the industrial development permit area. Staff's recommending that it be issued.
All right, comments or questions on this? This is going to be simple. Okay, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. All right, development permit 21-343 DP and development variance permit 21-343 1202 Young Crescent. So there's two recommendations to this. Recommendation that the District of Sycamoose authorize and issue development permit number 21-343 DP for the property legally described as foreshore lease number 33848 adjacent to the upland property legally described as lot 2, district lot 452, Kamloops Division. Plan 2106 located at 1202 Young Crescent for the upgrades to an existing marina. I need a mover on this. Counselor Malms, Counselor Bushel. Scott, you want to give us a report on this and then we'll go into the second recommendation?
Can, so these are development permit, development variance permit. Council actually issued these already on April 13th, 2022. But we made an error and we discovered it when we went to register the land titles that we had the wrong legal description. So we have to come back hat in hand and ask council to reissue these two permits. They're on Young Crescent, right on the channel. Here's the drawing. Some councillors may remember the drawing from the original application. Yeah, we hate doing this. We hate admitting we made a mistake, but has to be done. So staff's recommending that the development permit, the development variance permit be issued.
Thank you. Comments or questions from council? Counselor Malmus?
Well, I appreciate that staff admitted that because, you know, I was in 8 years, I've never heard staff. I'll buy you a beer, Scott.
All right. I'll call a question on that resolution. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Then the second recommendation that the District of Sycamore authorize and issue development variance permit number 21343 DVP for the property legal described as foreshore lease number 333848 adjacent to the upland property. Located at 1202 Young Crescent to vary the minimum lot line setback and maximum lot area in support of the lease renewal. I need a mover on this. Councillor Malmus, second by Councillor Bushel. Any other comments or concerns regarding this? Call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right. We only got 3 more pages left to go. Okay, item number E, development variance permit application 22285 DPV 907 Trans Canada Highway Frontage Road. There's a recommendation of the District of Sycamore issue development variance permit number 22285 DVP to vary Sycamore subdivision and development servicing bylaw number 500 to sections 5.01 and 5.02, the servicing requirements for parcel B being a consolidation of lot 1 and 2, section 31, township 21, range 7, west of the 6th meridian, Kamloops division, and to allow for the construction of a commercial building. I need a mover on this. Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Malmus. Okay, Scott, you want to give us a brief synopsis on this as well?
And thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application to vary the subdivision development servicing bylaw number 500, sections 5.01 and 5.02. And those are the road servicing requirements. The property is located on Trans Canada Frontage Road, right beside the Chevron. There's proposed Dairy Queen there. Council issued the development permit for this in February, I believe, of this year. Here we have the OCP designation, highway commercial B, the zoning C2 highway tourist commercial, so it's suitable for our commercial building. Here's the RD3 25-meter urban collector road cross section. This is what is required by the existing bylaw. Starting from right to left, it's sidewalk, boulevard, curb and gutter, the road, boulevard, lamp post, and then another sidewalk. That really doesn't match up with what exists now out there, and the review of bylaw 500, we're probably looking to go to an alternate standard more closely to what is presented here. So looking at the top one, it would be boulevard and then a swale, no curb and gutter, the road, and then a ditch on the other side. So this is the alternate cross section that was proposed by the applicant. The engineering department said they would accept this, and this will more closely match what exists there now, and it will more closely match what the direction we're going with our new subdivision development servicing bylaw. Again, staff's recommending that this be approved. This came out of the building permit application, so once this is added into the building permit application, we'll be closer to being able to issue it so they can start construction on the building.
Thank you. Comments or questions on this resolution? Vamos.
Yeah, this came to the Planning and Development Committee this afternoon. We kind of thought that this had already gone ahead, but because of the variance required for the road, it got missed. The proponent is worked with staff and Planning and Development Committee, and they've come up with this, which meets what our new zoning bylaws are supposed to be for subdivision service and bylaw. And so we approved it at the committee today to bring forward to meeting.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Councillor Evans, you had a comment?
Thank you. Yeah, I had coffee with the developer one day and he was explaining to me the delay with the traffic studies and like we said, we approved this long ago. So I'm glad that it can go forward now.
All right, any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are we on F, right? Development permit 22-186 ALC, the 1760 Trans-Canada Highway. Recommendation that the district of Sycamus authorize non-farm use application 22-186 ALC to be forwarded to the BC Agricultural Land Commission for the property legally described as Lot 1, Section 9, Township 22, Range 7, Kamloops Division, Neil District Plan, NEP 67143, located at 1760 Trans-Canada Highway for the use of a distillery. Okay, I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, seconded by Councillor Mall. Ms. Scott, give us a synopsis on this, please.
And so this is an application to the Agricultural Land Commission. It comes to council first, and then council makes a recommendation to the Land Commission, and then the Land Commission makes a decision. So this is a property located out on 1760 Trans-Canada Highway, what used to be Wisdom Road. So there's 3 properties that actually get access off the highway onto a private driveway that used to be called Wisdom Road. So this is the last property in the district at the north end. Here's a drawing of or a photo of the property. You can see how it's accessed from a road that kind of parallels the highway, fields closer to the highway, and then it backs on to the Eagle River. And here's the site plan that they've presented. So right now, they do have a little bit of an agricultural operation, and they'd like to add a distillery. If 50% or more of the products that go into this distillery are produced on site, then they actually wouldn't need to go through a non-farm use application. Zoning bylaws, large holdings, agriculture is permitted use, the distillery would be an accessory agricultural use. But before they make any investments in it and they actually start producing something through the distillery, we want to make sure that, you know, if they happen not to be able to get that 50% on site, they can move forward with their business venture. But in the future, they do aim to try and produce as much on site as possible. Planning and Development Committee considered this in June, I believe, and we were working with the owner and Ministry of Transportation on access because it is not some road, which is kind of a driveway road, and they were able to get an agricultural access permit for the property. If the distillery is up and running and they're having a tasting room or retail sales, they'll have to amend their access permit, but staff's recommending that this be forwarded to the Land Commission with a recommendation of approval.
Scott, any comments or questions on this? Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, just for clarity, and I think everybody knows exactly where Scott's talking about. It was allegedly Wisdom Road at one time, but that was proven not to be true. That was never Wisdom Road, but the assertion was that it was. So we're talking about the same place, but it never was Wisdom Road.
Daryl, Councilor McKay.
Sorry, could you explain, thank you through the chair, back to Scott, could you explain the access? like, what we're doing here today is just supporting this to go to their application to Agricultural Land Commission. But wouldn't we have some concerns about the access? Because currently, the current owner with the berry farm there, you pick farm or whatever, they're saying it's unsafe. That they want that a recognized road there. So are we approving something that could be dangerous for access?
Go ahead.
Through the chair, so they do have an access permit through Ministry of Transportation for agricultural purposes. I don't believe the other two properties that get access off that same driveway have access permits, and we've asked them, and the one that we've talked to, the berry farm, we've asked them to apply for the permit and move towards that permit. Ultimately, it is being used right now for, residential access and agricultural access. Yeah, I agree. I struggled with this one. I wanted to make sure that they were talking to Ministry of Transportation. They did get their permit, so I feel comfortable recommending that it go forward to the Land Commission.
Thank you.
All right, any Councilor Moms?
And we're just approving this to go to the Land Commission for review, like they still, after the Land Commission, if they want a building permit, they're gonna have to come back for a building permit for the distillery, correct?
Correct.
So the land, if the ALC says yes, then it comes back here, but this is just to see if the ALC is gonna say yes. That's all this is.
Yeah, this is kind of now the new steps when it comes to the Agricultural Land Commission, and now that the municipal government is involved in these applications. So that's what's taking place here. And so this is now the process. So any other comments on this? All right, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Unanimously as well. All right. G, an ALC non-farm use application number 22266 ALC. This is 1450 South Sycamoose Road. Recommendation that the District of Sycamoose authorize a non-farm use application to the BC Agricultural Land Commission for the property legally described as Lot 2, Section 1, Township 22, Range 8, west of the 6th Meridian, Kamloops Division. 1450 South Sycamoose Road to allow community use, including stage music and cultural events. I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, I thought so, and Councillor Malmus. Scott, give us a synopsis on this and then we'll ask some questions.
Sure. So this is essentially the dog park. So this is where the Monastery Music Fest and Son of Stomp were held. There was a non-farm use that ran out this year, and I think it was September of this year. So this would be an application to continue that non-farm use. Council may remember they issued a temporary use permit that ended about the same time. So going forward, we would have to look at that and having a temporary use permit issued for the property. Yeah, everybody should know where it is, 1450 Solsco Sycamoose Road. They share the property with Public Works Yard, or the Public Works Yard shares their property with the dog park. It's a designated park in the OCP, and it's waste disposal in the zoning bylaw. Here's the drawing that was part of the previous application that shows the purple area where staged community events can be, and then there's a blue line, which would be the emergency access. So this is an application by the District of Sycamoose. We'll submit it to the Land Commission. Hopefully we'll have a meeting with the Land Commission to discuss some of the terms. But really I expect the terms to be pretty much the same terms as the previous application. And yeah, staff's recommending that it be forwarded to the Land Commission with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe.
Are we looking for a 5-year term? Did I miss that somewhere, sorry?
So through the chair, yeah, it'll be up to the Land Commission to determine, but yeah, we'd as long a term as possible, probably is what we'd like to do.
Sure, growing some nice burdock. Just saying. Anyway, any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving on. H, aquatic invasive species, recommendation that council adopt the revised resolution, protection of the waterways from aquatic invasive species as presented this 28th day of September 2022, and direct staff to submit the resolution to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Protection of waterways from aquatic invasive species. Okay, so there also is a whereas and a whereas and a whereas, and I'm gonna read it anyway, so that we can move forward with this. Whereas Canada is home of 20% of the world's fresh water. And whereas the National Aquatic Invasive Species Committee is formed by the federal and provincial and territorial governments, and whereas provinces and territories lack of adequate resources to prevent the spread of AIS through effective regulation, and therefore it be resolved that the FCM lobby the federal government to fund and implement a nationwide watercraft inspection station. Okay, so I need a mover on this. Councillor Anderson, thank you. And Councillor Evans. All right, so Sarah, you want to comment on this, and I'll get Councillor Anderson's take as well. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, staff is recommending council consider the revised resolution, protection of waterways from aquatic invasive species, to be submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So in June, council asked staff to explore the process for submitting resolutions to FCM and to amend the resolution previously endorsed by SILGA and UBCM. The resolution presented today has been amended to fulfill the requirements of FCM, that is to reflect a national focus, include a clause which explains how the resolution addresses a municipal federal issue, and state a specific action for FCM to take. The action being requested is that FCM lobby the federal government to fund and implement a nationwide watercraft inspection station and passport program that ensures owners clean, drain, and dry their vessels when transporting between provinces. The resolution is being presented today for council consideration. So council may choose to amend the resolution before it is submitted to FCM, or simply accept the staff report for information.
All right, thank you for that. Councillor Anderson, do you want to comment on this?
I think this is really exciting in that we're making headway on this. So I'm going to vote for it. Definitely.
Right, thank you. All right, Councillor Malmus.
At our UBCM, I sat with God, I can't remember his name now. He's running for mayor in Kamloops. Argent Singh. Thank you. And he's on the FCM board. He's on the committee for who's actually on the FCM. And at that meeting, we are not on it. We haven't paid our dues for a couple of years. So I propose that maybe we should pay the dues before we submit this. Might be a better deal.
Do we need a resolution to make sure that we pay the dues? I think we can do this, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good.
Councillor Malmus already informed me of that previously.
Yeah, well, with COVID and whatnot and we definitely have to be. All right. Point Councillor Malmus. Right, Kelly, you're on it. All right, I'm gonna call the question on this. All those in favor unanimously, thank you. All right.
Awesome.
Resolution, the manager of human resources appointment, recommendation that Shauna Kroll be appointed the manager of human resources for the district of Sycamoose. I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, second by Councillor Ayres. You want to comment on this, Kelly?
Yep, I'll be really brief. This is a housekeeping item. We recently passed a bylaw, officer establishment delegation bylaw, where we created 5 positions. Chief administrative officer, chief financial officer, approving officer. Ooh, there's another one. corporate officer and human resources manager. So all those other positions, there's been a formal appointment, but there hasn't been a formal appointment for the human resources officer. Since Shauna is our human resources manager, it only makes sense to appoint her as that position.
Did she accept like a decline in her salary?
No comment.
Shauna, thanks for what you do. All right, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're into, holy man, we're into correspondence. There's a lot of correspondence here. So for the benefit of the counselors right now, is there anything here that counselors would like to discuss in regards to any of the correspondence that's in front of them? Counselors. Counselor Bushel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure about this Heritage Conservation Act transformation project that they wrote us a letter, and I didn't get the time to do my homework on this, but this might have something to do with you know, like heritage buildings. So I'm wondering if we could, I could take a look into this a little bit deeper and see if, because they're doing a phase one engagement process. And it's, I just want to double check with the Red Barn group. So I just wanted to, I'll do some more homework on this and bring it back if it's important.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Councillor McCabe?
Not on Cord's thing, but on correspondence, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The MOTI letter,
Okay.
it's just sort of a good news thing that we supported splashing in the traffic light, and now Ministry of Transportation is doing a study for traffic and pedestrian safety improvements. So they don't come straight out and say a light, but at least it's on the radar, and they're doing a study for safety improvements. So we supported them, and it seems to be moving forward. So
you're recommending that we support it by correspondence?
no, we already have. I'm just making a statement that we did support them, and it's moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Any other comments around correspondence? Okay, I don't think that there's anything. Right, nothing here that.
Jeff has his hand up.
Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
The little shoe swap. Like, and Adams River Salmon celebration, so. I don't know if anybody's aware, but between where I live and the golf course. Fisheries came in there, and they asked permission to use my driveway to access it, but they came in there to put a gate across the Eagle River with a couch in it for the salmon. And they're claiming that the numbers are up, but I go over there and have a look, because off the bank, you can look down, you can, the sun hits the water just right. And I've never seen such small sockeye, well, they're this big. A lot of them, the majority of them, like they're no more than 8 inches long. Sockeye. The sockeye. So, I mean, there's some big ones in there, but I'm just.
They're not a real big fish.
But there are ones in there.
Very 16, that big,
But they're, most of them are 8. They're not, they're like, there's kokanee that we catch. So, but you should go over there and have a look. I asked them and they couldn't answer. I said, why are they so small? Like, did they come back like 3 years early? Because there's no size to, I'm gonna say more than 50% of the sockeye that are coming. So the thing about the fish is that they're smarter than we are. They know that something must be happening, because they can figure out when they're sitting in the ocean what the water temperature and how much water is in the Eagle River to come up and spawn in. So they gotta be smarter than us.
all the big ones end up in the Adam River. The small ones end up in the. No, it's just kidding. All right. Thanks for that, Jeff. Any other concerns around correspondence? It is cool that the sockeye are running up that river along with, Chinook and
Let us out of here.
I asked one question before you let it. So the gate across the river is to protect us now.
They block off most of, they left the opening that's probably 25 or 30 feet. And they have electric eyes that count the salmon go.
Oh, okie dokie.
That's the kids
See that.
count them. What it's for.
so there's, I've been watching the salmon in the river. I've never seen more salmon in the river than this year. It's absolutely incredible. Go ahead, Gord.
Just one comment. I forgot to thank Daryl for the helping to get the artwork in the beach park. The Saskew's artwork is installed in the beach park.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it at night. Have you been over?
No, I've got to go there tomorrow, try to figure out how to turn it orange. I guess there's a. No.
So that lights those folks light up.
Yeah.
I think there's only 3 or 4 bulbs in there, but it lights up and they downloaded something and sent it to us and it looks really complicated for our life.
Who was the artist?
David Harder is his name,
Out of,
Seminar area,
And he's in Scotch Creek.
Scotch Creek.
And there will be an unveiling on October 20. I know
it's already unveiled.
public, but the credit union's coming on Credit Union Day, which is October
Yes.
20th.
Oh,
Right, so they'll
That's
want
cool.
somebody from council to come at that time. Yeah, to transfer it to the district.
All right, we're at almost at the end of the council. So Matt, so you're running for council, good for you. I'm glad you're putting your name forward. Now you've experienced the council meeting, all the different details that come out of a council meeting, and sometimes you take a look at the time. We've been at it since 10:30 this morning, and but it can be a real long day and a lot gets accomplished. So anyway, a lot of fun stepping up.
Bryant can be a,
Best of luck.
I think Bryant could be a
Super fan.
super a council member. He's like at every council meeting.
And for the rest of the gallery, thanks for being here. And we had a really interesting public hearing tonight and wish we had had more time in order to next stuff, but a really great staff member and Stockton is trying to get this all figured out. Short-term rentals is not an easy fix. Very complex. And I hope that we get it right, taking kind of a page out of other communities. Hopefully, we'll get a resolution to it. Councillor Evans. Up.
Get your hand up. For me.
Well, I already brought up the beach park.
Okay. Can I say something sappy?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I would just say that whatever happens on October 15th, I'm gonna miss this blend of people. You guys are awesome.
Me too.
Really are. And I've learned so much. And I just really admire all of you. I know every one of you loves this town. That's why you did this. So whatever happens, I'm gonna miss you guys.
You have another meeting, Bob.
Have one more council
It
meeting.
got canceled.
No.
Oh, sweet.
Well,
We got one more meeting.
Okay. That is good news. All the staff, just forget it. Forget he doesn't like this. I don't like you at all.
You could drag the painted supper now. One board, 12 hours.
Okay. Don't go away thinking I'll miss you.
Okay, one last comment. Anyway, regarding 200 Main Street and the decision made by council, and you guys have stepped up and you stuck to your guns, and so you have my total respect on that particular decision. All right, recommendation that the regular council meeting for September 28, 2022 be adjourned. I need a mover. Councilor Aries, second by Councilor Bushel, all in favor. Carried, thank you.